when it comes to actors specifically, there are so many people out there in the acting world who think they are the best thing in the universe. I've never met such a degree of like intrinsic normalized narcissism than I've met just hanging out in Hollywood. Yeah, it's free speech, right, guys? Like
Yes.
that's the whole point.
It's
People
very
are allowed to
important.
say stuff that you disagree with because that's how we, that's what philosophy is. It was just a bunch of old dudes with beards sitting around thinking about stuff and then getting together and arguing about that stuff until like every major Western global institution, to I would say like a significant degree, is based around money, and it's based around debt, and it's based around creating a kind of quasi slave state from that debt.
Okay. Greetings, humans. Welcome to the multiverse, Kay Smythe Hill. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting. You guys basically host like weekly therapy sessions, so I'm like stoked for it. How you guys doing?
Yeah. Well, we appreciate your support very much. And so it's a pleasure and an honor for us to have on our show. And just to introduce you a little bit, you just found out you're a certified Rotten Tomatoes reviewer. You're a fill-in host for Newsmax Daily, regular guest on Carl Higby's show on Newsmax, as well as the owner of the Daily Hire, producer and host for Wandering Wolf Productions. Does that sound right? And most importantly, in relevance to our show specifically, a writer for the Y Files. You're basically a celebrity to us here in the multiverse. So I know we want to get into like your story, okay? But I really gotta. I'm just dying to know something right off the bat.
Okay.
And you please share as much as you're able to or willing. But why were we trying to get rid of Hecklefish a few months ago? Like, what happened there? I know that AJ puts a lot of pressure on himself and he wants to put out good content, but like all of a sudden there was no Hecklefish and I was very upset.
So, okay, I gotta clarify because AJ and Victoria and Jen and everyone, Hecklefish, Gino, everyone over at the Y Files, they're like also close personal friends of mine. And so I wrote a lot of the way earlier episodes, and the show has changed so much, and I've changed so much, I think, in, just being pregnant and not being able to like read and stuff. In the last year, that I haven't actually written an episode for them in a while. But to answer your question, from my understanding, the stripped episodes were designed to be quick. It's so funny, like when they were pitched, or when they were sort of described to me, it was like, oh yeah, they're designed to just be like quick short shows that just like get all the info in all at once. And then there's so much information out there, and the way that AJ, because AJ writes most of the shows, like I wrote a handful of them, again, like in the earlier days, which was like all the stuff that I knew about, which was also nice. Like there's only one or two that I wrote that I didn't know the backstory on going into it. So AJ writes 99% of what you see. And he, the show blew up in the last like 2-3 years. And so you guys know what this is like. Once you start to get that traction and the hockey stick really like takes off, so much other stuff comes at you that it makes it harder to get everything done at once. So my understanding was the strip shows were just supposed to be like quick, easy, let's not overproduce them.
Mm-hmm.
You can like relax and listen to them. You don't necessarily have to watch them. And so I think that's why Hecklefish sort of took a little bit of a break. He's also been working so hard. You know, Hecklefish, he writes all his own jokes.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of work. A lot of it's off the cuff because he's got that natural
Right.
thing. But yeah, I think that's why it wasn't like they were trying to get rid of Hecklefish. It was just like, let's just get the meat of this story out. And so yeah, I think that was more the vibe. That was my understanding. I could be completely wrong, and AJ might text me later and be like, shut up. But that was my understanding. Everyone still loves Hecklefish. He's still around. He still
Well,
likes to hang.
that's funny you said that at the end, because I don't know if you can really confirm or deny it, but there is rumor out there, rumor mill, saying that Hecklefish also had to clear his schedule out for some upcoming obligations that he would have regarding something about a campaign in the future.
Oh, for next year. Yeah,
2028.
no, 28. Okay, I heard the 2026 rumors, but yeah, 2028, I could see that for him too. I
Yeah.
could see that. He'd be so good.
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be so nice.
It's great to
Amazing.
meet you. Welcome to the show, Kay. Thanks for joining us. Let's kick off from the beginning. Could you tell us about your childhood growing up in Britain? What was it like for you? And then were there any early experiences at that time that propelled you into this path and sparked your curiosity about the world?
Oh, that's a great question. Again, this is why you guys run like weekly therapy sessions. Like I just love it. So growing up in Britain was, it was the 90s. It was great. It was like the golden era because we went overrun with like socialism, which was kind of nice. It was still a very liberal place, but liberal in the sense of like common sense liberalism.
90s liberalism.
I mean, it was great. Like I was talking to a friend of mine from primary school, so someone I've known for, nearly 30 years now. And we used to have like preachers come in, we called them vicars. We had one guy who would come in. We used to call him the chinless wonder because he had no chin whatsoever, but he used to give the most beautiful sermons. We just loved him. There's lots of like Lord's Prayer stuff like that in school, but then a lot of like, really intense sciences. Everyone was reading by the age of like 4 when they got into school. And so there was like such a huge emphasis on education. That's what I remember from my childhood. And then my parents, who are great people, I'm an only child, so it was very cost effective for them to take me out of school and we would go travel a lot. So I got a lot of sort of secondary education through traveling. And, I sort of joke with my husband, I feel bad because, when you live in America and the cost of travel now is just absurd.
And everything's so far away.
Dude, everything is so far away. But you guys have so much stuff here that like I still need to see of America. So that's like the upside. But yeah, like when you grow up in Britain, you can just like hop on a plane and be in Greece or Canary Islands, France, Spain, where you can be everywhere within like 2-3 hours. So we did a lot of that, which was great. Pre 9/11, it was cheap, it was easy, it was fun.
The glory days.
Yeah, well, you felt safe.
TGI
Remember that?
Fridays, yeah, TGI Fridays. Remember?
TGI Fridays.
Like
yeah,
Urkel, everything seemed normal.
Yeah, it was so peaceful.
It was.
Yeah,
I appreciate your highlighting the fact that you had positive experiences in the education system growing up. One of the topics that inevitably comes up on a show like this or any of the shows that we're involved in is sort of the, I want to say divide or like, what's the word?
Dissension, maybe?
Yeah, or like hostility.
From
but obviously, we focus in on where the mainstream science ends, on where the fringe stuff begins, and it's sort of important. But I always like to focus on, hey, the education system does some good. You had positive experience, I've had positive experience, and that has propelled us to keep being scientific thinkers through life. So it's not just about ragging on the system, the education system.
Yeah, no.
Yes, it could improve, but there's still some good elements.
There is some good, and like I worked in the education system actually up until probably around like 2020. God, I was still in it in 2020. That's
Mm.
crazy. That was my last real year. I was working with like PhD candidates and getting them through their dissertations and stuff like that. And like
Like
the
doing prep work, like helping them prepare and editing, or what were you doing?
I was, it was people get very like thing about this sort of everything from the prep. I'm a qualitative researcher in my own academic, like my own undergrad and things like that. But we do dissertations in the UK for an undergrad. So
Oh wow,
the
they
process.
don't even do that here. Yeah, it's not even a thing.
Oh yeah, you've got to have like 4 associate's degrees by the time you turn basically 18 to go to
Yeah.
college. In the like, education's a big thing. But yeah, like we do the whole peer review, the whole everything you have to do for your PhD out here, we do for our undergrads back in the UK.
Wow, that's awesome. I
It's
like that.
it honestly, it was, and I really didn't like university because it was right when, I don't know, the sort of climate change cabal was really taking over, and Monsanto had just invested like so much money in my school. And so there was just, I had a handful of great professors. And then outside of that, it was just not really for me. I don't really
Yeah,
It's
like,
so
I get it.
reassuring when the big agricultural companies and the big petrochemical companies are the ones funding the science. It's like, yeah, sure, there's no bias there whatsoever.
no bias, nothing at all. Like, what's this about a new lab? What's the data supposed to say from that lab? Yeah, no. But that was kind of my experience. But
Wow.
no, when I was working with candidates out here, I was doing everything from the prep work through to like actually ghostwriting the dissertations. A lot of scientists aren't writers. And
Yeah.
I'm a writer. I've been a writer my whole life. I'm good at putting words in order that make sense most of the time. Not necessarily verbally, but on paper I'm all right at it. And I know how to reference, because that's all it is really. It's just making an argument but making it in like a specific recipe style format. And I actually messed up my own dissertation because I abbreviated throughout, because I was going to be over the word count, so I was going to get penalized. So I wrote things like don't instead of do not, and I got penalized for that. And so I don't know. It's
Wow.
just stupid shit like that that made me, sorry about the swearing. It was just
Swear all
stupid.
you want.
Oh, okay. It was just stupid stuff like that. And then when I ended up working with candidates out here, I just loved it. It was just really fun. And all the problems to all the solutions to like every problem we have is somewhere in an academic journal or a scientific journal. And it just really bothered me that so much of the science just goes to die in there. And then because I'd had a background in media back in the UK, which we can get into if you want. There's another cat in here. Oh my god, we have so many. We
We
have
don't mind
feral cats that just keep having kittens.
we don't mind cats photobombing our interviews, so
Okay,
interview
good.
bombing, so that's all good.
They like to do it when I'm on live TV as well. That's always really fun.
What did you just mention that you said we could get into? I missed that.
Oh,
You said
sorry. No. Well, what I was
we
going
could
to
get
say was
into.
when I was back in the UK, I don't know. I started writing like little travel pieces for the Guardian of all
Okay, yeah.
outlets. And I didn't think they'd ever get anywhere. And then one day, one of my mum's friends called her and was like, Kay's in the Guardian. I was like, oh, cool. We read the
Sweet.
Guardian. Like, let's actually read the travel section for once. And so we did. And there I was. And so I just kept doing that. And then when I was at uni, I was writing for the Tab, which is kind of like, I don't know if you guys have ever read the Daily Caller.
I may have. I don't. Not
You
regularly.
you've probably
I've
seen
seen it.
some. There's been a couple of headlines that I wrote for them that like Elon Musk tweets every now and again that I'm like, what? I wrote that years ago. I think the biggest one was about JRR token making you right wing. That one comes
I'm
up all the
sorry.
time.
That's amazing. I got a Lord of the Rings poster right here, a classic one, and that's a hilarious one. To be fair,
It's
I
so
like that one.
stupid. It's so
Yeah.
it's so dumb. But no, when I wrote for the Tab, it was like a lot of like super, not my stuff, but like a lot of people would write super deep investigative pieces, and then I would just shit post like news commentary, that kind of thing. And then I ended up getting hired, or what's the word when they find you? like
Headhunted.
Scouted, one of those, both of those work, for the Huffington Post of all outlets. And so I wrote about the entertainment industry. And so it was about how people from, pretty rough backgrounds, like gang members, cartel members, stuff like that, ended up getting into entertainment. And so I'm there doing my like undergrad geography degree at Plymouth University, writing about everything from like freaking tree rings to, urban planning, American politics, like all that different kind of stuff. And then in my spare time, I was just like, I'll write about films, and I'll write about actors. And then I don't know, I think I wrote so much before I turned 21 that when I came out to America just for like a 3-month visit. I was like, just get me out of Britain, because it just started to really fall apart. I came out here, met all my people, met my immigration attorney, and then my immigration attorney and her boss at the time sat me down, went through my whole body of work, and they were like, you could get a visa if you want one. Like, you could come work here for like 3 years. And so I was like, yeah, go. Stop it! Sorry, the cat's trying to eat through the cable. Stop it, OJ, stop it. Come here. Idiot cat. Sorry about that.
Well, they don't get shocked. Sometimes they chew through the rubber and they get a little shocking event.
That's what I'm scared about happening. Stop it. Oh, that sucks. I have my glasses on. And
I don't think we should cut this. We're definitely leaving this part in.
You can if you want. I'm going to grab you.
I pulled this up just because it's hilarious, Kay. But
yeah, that's the
one. Lord of the Rings in 19 could lead to right-wing extremism. Government report warns.
Yo, I'm technically a millennial. We still read 1984 when I was in school. And even at that age, I was old enough to tell, okay, 1984 is the bad version of the story. Brave New World, I could tell, was already unfolding in the world I was living in, just saying.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. And I started to notice that too. Like, it was like, I don't know, probably around like 2005, 2007. I remember just sitting there, like, looking at the state of the world. Because, like, okay, not to get into all the conspiracies like this early, but if we want to talk about childhood, the day of 9/11, I remember, like, everyone remembers where they were, right? Sure. Everyone remembers. It's one of those, like, first major collective memory, I think, for the millennial generation. Unless you're British, you remember Diana. If you're like an elder millennial.
We remember that here, though, too. In the that was huge here, like all over the news. Yeah, in the 90s. Yeah, when that happened, that was all everyone talked about. Maybe I grew up in Canada,
it was bigger in Canada.
I'm talking shit. Yeah, I forgot. I'm Canadian. Never mind.
Yeah, you guys have a little bit of a bias.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
We're still technically ruled by you guys.
I know, right? Oh my gosh. Like, you guys have to put up with the same king we do. Oh God. Miss you, Elizabeth. But no, like, after 9/11, I was sat at my kitchen table with my parents, and I remember my dad, I think it was, saying right then and there, he was like, they're gonna blame it on Saddam. We're going to go invade Iraq. He never should have asked for euros in exchange for the oil. We're going to go nation build in the Middle East. We'll see how that goes. And that's just what's going to happen next. And I don't think it was, and he was just there like, I don't think this was, like, I don't think it was Saddam. Like, it was probably Al-Qaeda, but it was probably not funded by them. I can't remember if at the time we knew, like, that whole rumor about it being the Saudis, and like the money filtering through Qatar and all that kind of stuff. But like, I was just super blessed to have, like, parents who were very, like, they've always just had their, like, finger on the pulse, and they were never afraid to talk to me about, like, those big topics and stuff like that. And so that was my first realization, like, oh, what we're being fed by the media isn't what is really happening. And, like, seeing the propaganda play out in real time, and then getting to uni and seeing, what we're being taught about climate change. Again, like watching An Inconvenient Truth, I was just sat there like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, I love your passion, Al Gore. Fantastic stuff. You're never going to be president, but, like, love this for you. Such a vibe. all of it's bollocks. Like, this stuff doesn't spontaneously happen.
No.
And so, like, but that was the one that I think got everyone in the UK. And so, like, even to this day, like when Graham and I talk about it, I think most people in our sort of age group and our field kind of get, like, we know that some kind of cataclysm happened, but the amount of propaganda that was pushed on, like, the climate change thing.
Oh, in the 90s for in Canada for sure. Yeah, we got it hard.
Okay, so did you guys have the same kind of, like, intrinsic, like, no, it's a natural cycle, but also cow farts, and also if you drive, you're gonna kill everyone.
Yeah, the driving's
Like,
gonna kill everyone. Aerosol, which does actually kind of, sorta, a little. If everyone in the world was like, psh, we
oh
we might burn the ozone layer, maybe. I don't know, but like, there was that. I remember the Earth in like
Mhm.
with like a sad face with a Band-Aid on top of it and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
so I remember getting all that stuff, and then
yeah.
we would go like pick up trash, which again I don't think is a bad like thing to get kids to do, but we would go around picking up trash because we were saving the world
The cigarette butts
climate
weren't
change.
warming things up though.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
I used to participate in those too.
it
in
was
the
mostly
neighborhood.
cigarette butts.
Boy Scouts, plastic bottles, styrofoam cups. Like, okay, that will clog up a river. It'll pollute the river, but that's not warming the earth per se.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
It's
I just
so
wish, Kay, that I had parents like yours because like I didn't see through the bullshit till after I joined the army, went to Iraq,
Mhm.
came home, and was like, that whole thing was bullshit. But they were preying on people like me, like looking for opportunities, and like, you see the commercials that make it look like a great idea. And I wouldn't change.
Mhm.
I had a good experience, and for the most part. I wouldn't change it anyway.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting. Like we all kind of get pilled at a different version of state of
Yeah.
our life.
I'd
Yeah.
like to make a subtle comparison since we've hit this topic twice so far now on disinformation and who's in control of what. The cigarette companies were the ones that figured out that smoking kills you. They couldn't really spin it in a way that kept everyone buying cigarettes necessarily. So the best that they could do was cast doubt. The best that they could do was cast doubt. And I'm here to judge nobody for smoking a cigarette. I've enjoyed several myself in my life.
I love
Okay?
cigarettes. I just can't touch
I
them and
enjoy
haven't
them
been able
too.
to touch them since I saw that little pink line, and I'm just like very proud of myself for that. But
Good
still.
job.
There you go. Okay, hold the cigarette, folks, in one box. Second box, big oil figured out that climate change was happening.
Mhm.
Now, unlike cigarettes, we're all dependent on fossil fuels to move about our daily lives. So they were in a very, very special situation where they could control the narrative. They know that climate change is happening, and they can also twist it and tell you that it's your fault, while in the same time making you buy that new car every year that's just only
Yeah.
marginally better than the last car. They're subtle, but it's a very deep troll that's going on, and a lot of people fall for it at many levels. I just want to highlight
I
why we have a
fell for
show
that a
like
bunch of
this. We can
times.
talk about it.
Oh my gosh. No, you're so on the money. And like that level of propaganda, like, oh, well, Dave, firstly, thank you for your service. And yeah, I have so many friends. Like my friend Ben, he was in New Jersey at his school, watched the towers fall,
Wow.
became a ranger. And now he's been out now for a good few years. But same thing, everyone I know who's like Carl, who I do the show with on Newsmax every single week, and who I'm writing my first, or just written my first book with. But same thing, like every veteran I know is the number one person or number one like
Pointing out
demographic.
propaganda.
Yeah, just like they don't believe anything like that they're being fed, that they're being told. They immediate like you'll look straight through the haze and just go straight to, yeah, like you said, Mike, like where's the money in this, basically.
When I got to Iraq and there was a fucking Burger King on my base, I was like, oh, you know what
Oh
I'm
my
saying?
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't even get me started on the food companies and big pharma.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So first of all, I just want to go on a quick little rant. While I was there, so we had cooks that literally that was their job in the military. They retrained them as MPs, then signed blank contracts to these companies who are fed us, and then charged those companies like $30 a meal or something, like for every single meal that we ate, and it was just the numbers were just astronomical. Meanwhile, all these cooks are like, I was just trying to be a cook, and now I'm a military police officer. It's like it was totally backward, and so much of that stuff was going on. But
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. And it's all a money grab, really. That's what it comes down to. And it's the same, yeah, from start to finish across the spectrum. Whatever narrative you're being fed, like I don't know if you guys saw the most recent Sean Ryan with, I can't remember the guy's name. But he went into like how to break down. Oh, Y Files did an episode on it too,
Y-Files
like
did it
how
too,
to,
yes.
yeah, how to break down a psyop. And yeah, I was, like you said, I was super lucky that I had parents that saw through it. My mom, actually, the only place where they diverged, my mom is like, oh no, like I see the I Want to Believe poster. My mom was, yeah, that was her bread and butter. X-Files, like just run the gambit on the UFO stuff. And
That's
she's
neat.
so proper, and she's probably gonna be so embarrassed that I've like said this, but she's just like, there's something out there, and it's insane to think that there's not. And my dad's like, there's nothing out there.
That's
I'm
funny.
like, you
That's
wait.
funny that's the one that like splits us. There's the divide. That is funny. But I'm with your mom. Tell her I'm with
Yeah.
I'm with her.
I am too, and it's one of those where like actually I blame the Y-Files for part of this. So I was not like a big UFO person. Like I've seen weird stuff out in the desert. Who hasn't? I've actually had, I'd say, more paranormal experiences than like UFO type stuff. And to be honest
Maybe
with
they're
you,
the same thing.
well, I thought that, and now I'm like, everything is real until you prove to me that it's not. Like seriously, but no, I was not super into the UFO thing. It bothered me that I couldn't, do a peer review or whatever on that kind of stuff because so much of it is hidden. I have friends who've definitely had access to stuff that they can't explain, but they're also not willing to say it was extraterrestrial. So that was always like a little bit of a gray area for me. And then I wrote the episode. So the Rendlesham Forest episode was the easiest thing I've ever written in my life, ever in my life. And it's crazy because when I watched that episode back, I rewatched it a couple of times, like with the script in front of me. And there was so little that AJ added that gave me such an ego boost that I think I became a worse writer afterwards because I was like so overconfident. So the Rendlesham Forest one was definitely weird, and kind of started that whole like I'm not sure, like it feels like it was a prank, but then there's stuff that like doesn't add up. But then I did Charles Hall and the Tall Whites out at Nellis Air Force Base, and I was like 100% all of it is real. All of it is real. Charles Hall,
is a
you see my
classic.
grandpa, like I love you. Everything you've described to me has to be real because like he's the only guy in that field that doesn't add to his story. He like wrote the first book, he wrote the second one to clarify the questions, and then I don't know if he's even written anything after that. But like it
That's one of the
was,
ones that
yeah.
AJ kind of left off, like left hanging at the end too, or was that you? Where it's
Yep.
like, okay, like normally he's like, yeah, most of that was bullshit. That was one of those ones where he's like,
Yeah.
it's amazing. I find it like super interesting that the Rendlesham Forest one was like kind of your intro. Writing for the Y Files, that episode was kind of your intro into like getting into UFOs. That's
Yeah.
funny to me. That's just one of my favorite stories.
Oh, really? Okay, so what
Yeah.
do you think? What do you think the truth is?
Well, because I've seen like so many different like tellings of it, and it's hard to say. And because a lot of it's subjective, that like the stuff, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was writing, like trance writing and stuff. It's like hard to, I don't know. I again, I'll just look at. I want to believe it. How about that?
It is one of those, and there's so much. Well, the crops. I didn't write the crop circles episode, but the crop circles episode also really sold me, especially from like the British perspective. And I'm sure you guys have noticed this, but like British people are disgusting skeptics who hate fun. Like, and if you're successful in something that isn't like boring mainstream 9 to 5 bread and butter beans on toast, British people just won't like you. Like it's actually something that me, Michael, I think, like Michael Button, Graham Hancock, like we've all discussed it. It's so much easier to live in America doing what we do because people are just nicer to us. Whereas like back in the UK, people are just pretty visceral. Like, like people who love you will call you some pretty harsh words if they disagree with you. And it's not in like a funny, bitchy way. It's in a like, wow, this is kind of like a toxic bullying type vibe kind of way. And like, I was definitely one of the, I was part of the problem growing up. And it wasn't until I got to America where I was like, oh, people can be happy and enjoy themselves and do stuff that is outside of the norm. This is great. Like you can be into these kinds of things. That's why my mum probably doesn't talk about the UFO stuff, because people will be condescending little shit rats about those things.
Let me give you the Canadian perspective from that. So Canadians, they'll be super, super polite and nice to you no matter what, until they don't. And then Canadians will go total. Look, I love all my Canadian friends and family, but if they think they got a moral high ground on your ass, they're gonna drive that bad boy home. And it is what it is.
It's honest. So my aunt married a Canadian woman, and I think it's like culturally they are very similar.
Yeah.
And part of it is that like it is very that like I just keep my mouth shut most of the time, or I just talk so much that they can't talk over me and I don't have to listen to them. Do that with a lot of my British people. It's just easier. Because I just don't want to fucking hear it.
I don't either. I have a question though, because you brought it up earlier, just in regards to the British education system and then coming over here. So, because I'm very interested. First of all, first thing I'd like to say is that if every undergrad student had to go through a dissertation process, that would completely shut down the industry that is the American.
The schools would have to stop wasting time. They would have to actually teach kids something so that they could make a dissertation about it. And that's not the objective, is to sell sports tickets and sodas at the sports games. That's it.
Yeah.
And 80% of enrollment would not be able to even complete a dissertation process at all. And the teachers probably wouldn't be able to teach them properly. So
not just in preschool like you were.
This isn't the poop on Americans. It's more on the system. And I just wanted to ask, so when you came over here and you started, working with people and they're doing the ghostwriting and stuff, which isn't to me like a bad thing. I totally get what you mean about how like scientists do science and they need help with writing. Not all of them. Some of them are really good writers, but it's part of the process. And a lot of people don't know that. But were you kind of shocked at the level of like, literature and like composition and all that stuff that Americans have, or what?
So, okay, yeah, it's really hard to answer this without sounding like a condescending little twat. But
I'm putting you on the spot, but
no, because it needs to be said, and I think it goes back into what we've been talking about.
Yes.
Like every major Western global institution, to I would say like a significant degree, is based around money, and it's based around debt, and it's based around creating a kind of quasi-slave state from that debt. And so, put into perspective, I'm Welsh. When I went to university, the Welsh Assembly government, they cover sort of about, or they used to cover like 60% of your tuition if you go to an English school. But if you go to a Welsh school, you pay $3,500 a year. And at that point, we had a better higher education system than China. And so I got in at this really great time right before Brexit, graduated right before Brexit, and then got the heck out of there. And then everyone that's, actually, no, that's not true. I was talking to Michael Button about his dissertation, and he got to do some like really cool stuff with his degree. He went to Birmingham University, which I applied to, but it was too far north. I went south. I went to Plymouth. But we have this sort of system where I didn't graduate with any debt, but a lot of friends that did.
That's amazing.
But you don't have to. It's the same sort of like with the state kind of system. There's a fly that just got in here, by the way. Every time I see a fly, I think of that show Breaking Bad. You remember the episode where like all they did was chase
Yes.
the fly around the
Yes.
every
He's in the
time I'm just
lab, yeah.
like, don't become the lab. But you might see a cat jump up in midair and try and kill it. But
I hope we do. I really
Yeah.
I hope that happens.
We'll make
they
a
do
short
some
hair.
pretty good acrobatics around here. But no, so I come from a very biased background. I also come from a long line, particularly actually it's both sides of the family. Like my mom's brother is a historian, and he's not like your standard like stuffy historian. He's like one of the OG rock and roll ones. So I got a lot of that growing up. My mom worked for HSBC for her whole career. So, when we went to visit China, it was during the SARS epidemic, and we were wandering around. There was like no one there. It was like completely empty. And she got a lot of preferential treatment because, HSBC, Hong Kong, Shanghai Banking Corporation, like, when when you understand the system, you can work it better to your advantages. So that's my bias. That's just what I'm trying to push before we get into me shitting on the American education system, because
And
I
not
know a
anyone
lot of brilliant
individual.
people.
Not an individual person.
No individual people, no. But no, I think the biggest shocker for me when I first got out here was I had a friend who had a 6-year-old daughter. And one day she sat down and was like, hey, Kay, can you help me with my homework? And her homework, I was like, why didn't you know this going into school? Like, you should have known this at the age of 4 when you started school. She's like, I only just started school. I'm like, what do you mean you only just started school? Like, you're 6, almost 7 years old. Like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, no, we only just, like, this is me. I'm like, okay, but still, maybe your mom should have taken the time to teach you some of this. And then her mom's like, well, I only got 6 weeks off from work when she was actually adopted. And I'm like, what? Like, because we get, up to a year in the UK, sometimes more.
Canada does too, and they split it up between the spouses too.
Yeah. And like that time for that early education, essential. Like, most children's brains learn how they're going to learn. Like, they set up those neural pathways by
Before
the time they
5.
turn. By the time you turn 6 or 7, that is how you're going to learn. Not just like book work, but like emotionally, just run the gambit. That's how your brain is going to work, unless you do like a hefty dose of psychedelics at some point and like really
Get
work.
into one of those MK type programs. MK.
Yeah. No, just like you go out to the desert, you have a nice time. No. But it's so that really shocked me, like the lack of emphasis. Now, is the emphasis on education in the UK a good thing? Yes and no. Yes, if you are lucky enough to be able to think outside of the box and think outside of what you're being taught. You have teachers that are okay with pushing that. You have parents that are okay with that, a network, a village, whatever. The downside is, if you don't have that, you're going to become
Indoctrinated.
you're going to become a piece of the system. And that's why we're seeing digital ID, things like that roll out so prolifically, is because so many people haven't been able to avoid that indoctrination, because it's
and
everywhere.
That's how it was so easy for them to get, when I say them, they get them in Canada and the UK during COVID. It was like boom, boom, boom. Everyone just fell into line, and it was super easy. And the government didn't have to do anything. The citizens did it for them, and that's the plan. That's the idea.
Oh my God, 100%. You are so on the money. And it's crazy because like as soon as COVID, like it was okay. So I was out of media for many years. Like once I moved to the US, I did the 2016 election, and I was a liberal socialist-y type. I was raised in that.
Back when Bernie and Tulsi were on Rogan for the first time, when they were running for the Democratic Party and got screwed. Everyone got to see them get screwed by that party way back when.
That's when I stopped politics altogether, was in that exact moment.
I did. I was done. And like I had like a Bernie t-shirt and everything.
Me too, man.
But then I actually started living in California like, so the education system was the first thing where I was like, wow, you guys just purposefully don't teach people out here, all the way up to the PhD level. Like, I was able to write, in fact, I ghost wrote PhDs for people who now I like see them on TV, and like they run big companies and like have big fancy jobs at big companies. In fact, there was one guy who, so I'm under NDA, so I can't actually name names, but he's like a huge pastor, like everyone follow, like he's one of the biggest religious leaders in the country. And I was like, dude, I wrote your PhD like 10 years ago. Like, you know, I'm, you know, again, they're not writers, none of these people are, but like it's still to me crazy
Mind
that
blowing,
like,
yeah.
you know, they
Well,
dine
that's
out
the
on that kind
basics
of
for you
stuff.
guys, basically, and you know,
Well, it is like
yeah.
the dissertation for your PhDs. It's just like a longer version of what we do in the UK. It is literally just like you just add extra pages. When you come down to the the quality, like the qual research, you've got to interview like 8 to 15 people. It's the same with your British undergrad. Like it's exactly the same number of people. I'm like, this is exactly the same process that we do when we're in our 20s, like early like 2021. And
Yeah.
so I went from like, I will say writing those, this was the point I was trying to get to, but writing a lot of those dissertations and working with those people, living in California and seeing liberal policies play out, I was like, oh wow, we have been sold a crock of shit by the Democrats.
Yep.
Like this is literally killing people. Like the policies
Mhm.
that they're pushing are literally killing people. And so
Mhm.
I went up to visit San Francisco. My parents and I had visited, I think, the first time in like 2005, came back in 2008 because it was super cheap. It was right before the recession hit the UK. So it was like super cheap. Same in 2010. And we fell in love with America. Like we just loved this country, particularly the West Coast, which is so funny now because I live like almost as far east as you can get. But
Yeah.
but we fell in love with it. And then when I went to visit in 2015 and moved here in 2016, I told my parents, I was like, I'm not going back to San Francisco.
Mm-mm.
I was lucky I got out of there alive. Like there are people dying on the sidewalk. It is scary. It is dangerous. And my parents like, no, it's so nice. Let's go to Haight Ashbury. Let's go like wander up Telegraph Hill and have like clam chowder. And I'm like, no, it's not like that anymore. And
It's
then
not.
within 2 years that hit LA and I was just like, oh.
Last time I was there, this is not, I'm not exaggerating, you guys. On this same sidewalk, I stepped over within 5 minute span. I stepped over 3 logs of human feces
Oh,
on the
God.
same
Yeah.
sidewalk.
That sounds
I
like
wasn't
San
even
Francisco.
walking 2 blocks, I don't think.
Yeah. And like
Yeah.
that's the liberal policies that they push. Doesn't align with any of the science, like whatsoever.
No.
It doesn't align with like common sense. It definitely doesn't align with the science. And so it was interesting, like leaving propaganda news media, getting into academia, seeing that detachment, but then also seeing it
Mhm,
play out in real life in
Yeah.
front of you in California. I was like, oh my God. And then when COVID hit, exactly what you were saying, Dave. Like everyone, I told my husband, I was like, you realize I'm the only, because he and I, neither of us are vaccinated. I was like, you realize I'm the only unvaccinated member of my entire bloodline.
Same.
There is not a single person.
There's 2.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad. We need more Daves in the world. But it was just, and we'd been in China during the SARS epidemic, and
What
so
that
I was like,
the first time?
yeah, like we saw this. We know it's not real. We know that, like, if the CCP is saying this is how it's supposed to be done, it probably shouldn't be fucking done that way. Like, like, no, what the fuck, guys? And everyone was just so in for it, in for a penny, in for a pound. Oh, it was a wasp. And it was just, I don't know, it was just one of those where I was just watching everything go downhill. But yeah, then I hate to say this, but it was literally as simple for me as like one day I was watching, I was just like channel hopping. I think I'd like borrowed a friend's like DV, like when you get regular TV, like you can just watch like Spectrum News or whatever, and all those like different actual. I never had like a television. Oh, wasp. But I never had like a regular television. And so I was never exposed to like mainstream news media. And then I had like 6 months of like free login on someone's thing. And was channel hopping. And all of a sudden there's this guy, Tucker Carlson, who's the only one like sitting there who's talking about the homeless crisis. And I was like, okay, why is this guy who I'm being told is a fascist sociopath by like everyone else I know
If you
in
even begin to
California the only one
entertain,
telling the truth?
yeah,
I was like, oh, okay, first red pill moment, and then it kind of just went on from there. And I feel like, you know, the academia and like seeing all of it had helped, but like, yeah, it was as soon as then COVID hit, I was like, oh, done.
COVID
Like,
was it for me too. I again, I survived the 9/11 psyop, you know, and it went the wrong direction there. The thing is with COVID, you were really able to watch it happen in real time because we were all at home, and you're talking, especially if you have like you had family in the UK, but you live in the States, and so I was talking to family members who 9 months later they've got one-way traffic in aisles at the grocery store. They're standing 5 feet away from each other. They're all wearing masks, and then 2 months after in Georgia, pretty much you could do what you felt comfortable with for you as a human with your own autonomy, and like that was it. So I just that was the end for me. But I wanted to just come back to that Y-Files episode about the psyops, because that's the cherry on the cake for me, Kay and Mike, because I that gave me so much like validation. I'm not gonna lie, because I knew I was right anyway, but it just now I can just like obviously point it out to everyone in like a very structured format, and I really appreciate that. And I've been doing the shit out of that for the last week.
Good.
Yes, and I'm going to continue to do so because it's important. If you see a family or member or a friend of yours who's being obviously emotionally manipulated, obviously being algorithm targeted hard, you know, like, and they don't see it, like, I'm not afraid to destroy that relationship anymore, because I'm doing it out of the kindness of my heart, and I'm doing it for a good reason. And if they want to get mad at me, they can, but I have a feeling they'll come back around. And this has happened to me even with COVID. I've had only a handful of family members come back around and be like, hey, yeah, my bad, sorry about that. But mostly, no, I didn't get any.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's actually mostly my doctor friends who came around the fastest.
Yeah.
When it came to COVID, well, they were seeing the injuries and stuff like that, like immediately
kicking in.
Everyone we intubate seems to die.
Yeah, right? Like straight up. And that was, oh my God, I had a cousin that worked for Big Pharma, and the same thing. He was like, oh yeah, it just seems to be like, you know, the intubation that's like really like making things bad, but you should go and get triple like boosted. And I was just like, shut the fuck up. I was like, no, that's not how that works. And I was working with Dr. Drew, like right when COVID started to become a thing. And I think he asked me at one point, he was like, well, what do you think is going to happen next? I was like, I think they're going to try and shut us down and control us, because that's what they did in China with the last SARS. And I think it's going to be really, I was sitting there on his show with like pink hair, you know, like being all cool.
I need to find
LA.
this now.
Yeah, it's
does that exist on the internet?
Oh yeah, it's still there somewhere. I had purple hair, I did all the different color hairs, and then all the crazies kind of co-opted that, so I had to stop doing it.
Before it was cool. So I did want to mention the gentleman we were referring to is Chase Hughes. That was the gentleman on Sean Ryan, inspiration for the Y-Files episode. He just dropped a video yesterday, and y'all are going to like this. I'm planning to watch it later.
Yeah.
It's about written language, how language itself is a psyop, which Dave and I have both jokingly said before, but there it is. Language itself, the whole spelling and writing and having to pronunciate things, total psyop.
So, okay, how is it a psyop? Because my undergrad dissertation was a social, like, demographic, like, linguistic analysis to prove that British people aren't stupid enough to mess up legalizing drugs. So, like, you know, I sort of saw the cannabis legalization thing when it happened in California. I was like, you guys are going about this in the wrong way. Like, this isn't how you're supposed to do it. Like, you don't just go and like decriminalize everything just because you've legalized weed. You need to put some pretty heavy restrictions on this process. And everyone's like, well, how do you know? I was like, well, I wrote my dissertation on it. And then, but it was all to do with the way that the education system around drugs pulled the difference between recreational versus problem drug use. So everyone understood this is recreational, this is problem. If someone's going through problem drug use, you intervene. Whereas out here, it was like, let's just let people die on the sidewalk, you know? Like, that was the big difference. But like, is that the kind of, okay, I'm going to watch the video tonight. But yeah, language is such a psyop.
I was going more in the direction of what you're saying. I think it is very valid and important and needs to be looked at. This is a bit far out there, but I'm just going to go ahead and go there.
Do it.
Sounds like before the Tower of Babel, we were all simply telepathic and could communicate without speaking different languages. I think that might be what it's getting at, but I'm always looking for something in that angle because that's one of my little hypotheses that at one point we as
shout out
were perhaps above language.
This is the
intention reigned supreme. If you could just read intention.
Yeah.
Guys,
and you can read body language. Yeah.
This is the plot for a new show on Apple TV called Pluribus. Plug.
So
great
good.
show.
So
yes.
good.
Great show. Basically, everyone, I don't know exactly, I'm not going to spoil alert, and I don't know the whole thing, but like essentially everyone on Earth develops a hive mind all at the exact same time, and except for 11 people.
Yeah. It's like the Rick and Morty like Unity episodes. Like that's what I kind of compared it to. And I love it's the same guy who did Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Yes.
It's the same team. Vince Gilligan. I can't remember the guy's name.
X-Files. Vince Gilligan of the X-Files. Yes.
And so it's just like I love his shows because the visual nature of it is just stunning. Like I just feel so relaxed when I watch them, even in like the really and I like Better Call Saul was probably my favorite show of all time. But I think he might go into kind of what you were saying. I remember watching like Introduce It. My husband's like the best person I've ever met. So this is gonna sound like I'm dissing him, but I'm not. But there was a couple of episodes that I showed him and he's just like, no one said anything for like 4 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, because you're supposed to interpret from the action and the expression. And like, you're supposed to just be sitting there, just paying attention to like how they're behaving, not what they're saying. And I hate shows now where they explain, like it's like the tell not show.
No, yes.
Process.
That's
like,
how people talk on shows on Netflix and shit now.
So
they talk
annoying.
as if like they're explaining what's happening, and it pisses me off. And I'm betting your husband just computer designer, right? Like so, like that's
he's
sort of
just
his
a
brain.
nerd. He's not actually like had no training in any of the stuff that he does. He was a recruiter, and then he learned how to build this stuff because he knew what some of the words were. So he was like, I can just logic this. He's just like one of those like really annoyingly smart guys who you wouldn't like. I don't know. He's just a nerd. I love him so much.
You wouldn't have spend the time putting up with the dissertation because then you got to jump through hoops. You got to go buy the books. People don't.
Yeah, he's very like we're both only children, so we also grew up without like the structure of who's homeschooled up until he went to high school as well. So he kind of didn't get the indoctrination, which is nice. But the same, I get what you're saying though, Dave. It is that kind of like I've never experienced anything like this. I don't understand it kind of like vibe. I think more so where he doesn't like, he was the one that introduced me to YouTube. Actually, that's the craziest thing was he came in, there's one mornings he always wakes up before me and I walked into the living room and he's just like, you got to watch this show, The Y-Files. He's like, there's a talking fish, but like the stuff that they're into. And like, it was just everything from there.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And then after that, you became. So let me just ask, how did you get connected to the show and AJ and then from there then?
So the cleanest version is, so I was writing for Daily Caller. I wrote for them for years. In fact, that's my award right there for the most read article. The Daily Caller. I'm going to read the headline to you because it is so dumb. It was Sam Elliott says that says liberal Hollywood's favorite new Western is stupid. way too gay, and frankly, not even a Western. And that thing got read like it was going out of fashion. It was great.
That's hilarious.
Sam Elliott ends up like issuing like an apology. Like it was a whole thing.
I personally love him as an actor, though. I
Me
do.
too.
He's the
You guys
best.
been watching Landman? Like this new
I
season?
haven't.
Getting
No.
Landman's amazing. Taylor Sheridan, eat your heart out. Like he's so good. But no, so I wrote for The Caller, which was like the dumbest thing ever because like I was working with Dr. Drew, I was working with all these different people in conservative news media, and I was just writing for myself more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun and it was easy. And then I think it was Buck Sexton, who now has one of the biggest radio shows in the country. He put me in touch with this guy at The Caller and was like, you got to meet Kay. And he's like, hey, you got to meet Henry. And I'm like, okay. Chatted to him for 20 minutes on the phone. He was like, I'll put you in touch with one of our editors. I chatted with this guy, Richie McGinnis, who, if you guys remember the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, he was one of the five people called to the stand because he was right there. He filmed the whole thing.
Wow.
That was Richie. He is our generation's Hunter S. Thompson, but without the reckless drug use and mental illness. But he is completely insane. Richie and I talked on the phone for like 2.5 hours, mostly about travel and surfing. And then he was like, you should meet like our editor in chief, who was this guy, Jeffrey Ingersoll, who I've worked with. Again, that's why I can't work for anyone else because they won't be as good as Jeff. And then Neil Patel, who founded Daily Caller with Tucker Carlson. I had a 10-15 minute phone call with him. Never saw my resume, nothing. They were like, yeah, you should come work for us. I was like, okay. So I just started shit posting for Daily Caller, and it was great because I would just come in with like clickbaity headlines. And I think that was one of Jeff's headlines, actually. And I think the one about 1984 and Lord of the Rings, that was a guy called Grayson Quay who pitched me that headline. But I'd get, 500 words to just shit post about whatever I wanted. And it was Click City. It was so much fun. It's the best job I've ever had. And so after watching a couple of episodes of the Y-Files, I was like, I want to pitch some stories about these guys. Because this is stuff that I care about, that I believe, that I can justify, but I can't just come out and write it. It has to be contextualized around something that is outside of just my opinion, that is outside of my just wanting to rant. Like, who is someone I can direct people to? Where is the secondary link? What my sources, things like that. And so I loved writing about like natural disasters, things like that. I love all the extreme weather stuff. Anything to do with like volcanoes, cataclysms, all of that. I wish I'd done that in my undergrad, but I'm just not good with numbers. And that was the only option to do natural disaster stuff. Was if you're good with numbers, you do quantitative study. I'm never going to be able to do that. And so seeing AJ really lean into a lot of that subject matter, I was like, hell yeah, I'm just going to steal that. He published the episode yesterday. I'm going to write a story about it today. And then at some point, and the same thing happened actually with Graham Hancock when Ancient Apocalypse came out. I wrote a lot of, I covered the whole series. AJ got in touch with me, and Graham actually as well got in touch with me and was like, hey, I read your work. This was like thank you, basically. And then AJ and I just like stayed in touch. He introduced me to his wife Jen and to Victoria, like he basically had like, I think it's that and Gino and Hecklefish, like that was the whole team back then.
Yeah.
And we were texting one day and
Gertie.
he said like, I really need writers. Do you want to come write for me? And at first I was like, I got a lot going on. And I did at the time. We had a lot going on. So I texted Jimmy Corsetti to name drop. And I was like, hey, AJ from the Y-Files just said I should go write for him. Do you think I should go do it? And Jimmy was like, you would be a complete fucking idiot to turn this down. And so it was Jimmy that talked me into it. And so I think I did like the Göbekli Tepe episode because, again, amazing. Graham and I'd interviewed Graham a lot at that point for Daily Caller, and we'd gone through a lot. which I can't talk about on the stream, but like, we dealt with a lot of stuff behind the
Mhm.
scenes together with people in the industry, and same with Jimmy. And so we had kind of just become friends at that point. And so it was literally that easy. It was just as easy as it was getting involved with Daily Caller. It was literally just word of mouth, texting, hanging out with friends.
Those are the best types of jobs that you get. I recently landed a job that's going to allow me, it's going to pay me exactly what I'm worth. It's going to allow me to work on my own time from home with a bunch of autonomy. And it all happened through, I wasn't even applying for a job. It just all
Yeah.
happened through word of mouth and connection to connection. And so those are all the best jobs I've ever got. So that's super cool how that happened. And then I first of all,
Congrats, that's huge.
thank you, I appreciate
That's
that.
amazing.
I'm a social worker. I work in mental health with veterans. Just
No way.
FYI.
That's
Yeah.
my dad was a social worker and like probation officer. That's a really honorable, like, yeah, you guys have to go through a lot of secondary trauma and stuff. So good for you. God bless you
Totally,
for doing that.
and also, I don't want to get into my school experience, but nowadays they're just not. They're not. The training's poor, but I'm trained well. But Mike mentioned that you forgot about someone in the early day team. Gertie was there early on, so
Oh
don't forget about
yeah,
Gertie,
that's
right?
true. Goody. I never interacted with Goody. But yeah, it was like that early team. It was they just knocked it out the park. They really did.
AJ, if you're watching this, thank you so much for everything you guys did during the pandemic. I really needed that during the
Yeah.
pandemic. I really, really did. And I'm not trying to kiss butt. I needed that. We
He's
all
a
did.
good person. Yeah, no, we all did. And like that's the other annoying thing is like after living in LA and like being in Hollywood and being around people who were like getting nominated for Emmys and like all this kind of stuff. And it's a really long story, but I accidentally ended up on a series of billboards for like a year when I first moved to LA. And so I started getting invited to like all these parties and seeing how dark things were once you lifted off the kind of like veil. One of the things that I think AJ and Jen and I all first like bonded over was we'd all lived in LA, lived through that, seen the other side of it, and we're like, we're good. We don't want to live that way. We're gonna not deal with that. And so it's like it's crazy how yeah, like I'll watch or when I used to write for Daily Caller, I used to have to watch a lot of mainstream media stuff. And I would just be like, I know you two hate each other. Like whatever the actor, producer, people were like, you'll hate each other. Why are you acting like you're friends? Whereas in this world that we're all in now, like everyone gets along and everyone is friends and it's great. And I think that's beautiful. And that's how I ended up meeting Mike over at Wandering Wolf and getting involved with them because you know, any friend of Jimmy's is a friend of mine, any friend of AJ's is a friend of mine, and all that like crossover.
Yeah. So I got into the Bright Insight channel and I've been into all these topics for 30 years, but I got into those two channels, Y-Files, around the same time, and they kind of grew together. So is that how those two connected? You connected between those two, or?
I don't really know. I can't remember how I met. I probably wrote about Jimmy as well, but I can't. Oh no, I think it was Graham. I think Graham was like, you should meet my friend Jimmy. Because he's a great connector as well, and just one of the most blessed human beings in the world.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
oh my gosh. And again, like I cannot tell you how difficult it is. Well, you get it, Dave, like growing up in Canada, it's the same in the UK.
Yeah.
For him to go out and do what he did and put himself on the line like that and step outside of the academic and like the mainstream scientific, you know, big archaeology, big anthropology type world, like the strength and the fortitude that takes to go out and do it, like certainly inspired me to do it more. Especially seeing that he's just like a no fucks given type guy, that makes it even easier. But yeah, I can't remember. That's so weird. Oh, I think we were all going to be speaking at like the same conference and then we didn't. That's a story for another day. But that's how we all met. And just I don't know. I think after working at the caller, I kind of got to a point where I was like, I don't want to work with people I'm not like friends with. Because I don't have to if I don't want to. And that made things like a lot easier. Because Jimmy, yeah, like Jimmy needs to get some new videos out. I might text him about that, give him some shit. But he is revolutionized. I mean, talk about like changing the very nature of the ancient histories world. I mean, he's literally reshaped what's going on at Göbekli Tepe just through being, you know, loud about it, and that's cool as shit to me.
It's so cool.
I think that's amazing.
It's so interesting too because it's got a great channel that covered a lot of different topics, not just ancient history. Then he kind of leaned into the ancient history. He is my personal inspiration for starting this show. The Cosmic Summit was the catalyst that brought Mike and I together to start the show. But watching Jimmy, because him and I are both combat veterans, and we're watching him, and I think I could do that or something like that. I could do something like that. And then so he's it's seeing the evolution and stuff, and now and his influence now in the sphere is just like he's got more gravity than just about anyone but Graham, and it's great. I just love to see it.
And Randall as well. I gotta give a shout out. It wasn't until I interviewed. Okay, so you guys have probably experienced this too. When you sit and you watch Randall Carlson give one of his talks, like not just the Rogan stuff, but when you really see him lean into his subject matter. So I mean, I've always been interested in this stuff because since I was probably because of watching 9/11 and also watching Diana get murdered and that just being so obvious that she was murdered, I've always been like, we're not a smart species and we've nearly gone extinct so many times. How do I avoid that? By not depending on a system that's literally just here to make money off of me. And so I, was like, okay, I make money, I go and buy my land, I go and I homestead and I don't depend on the system, which is great. Like that's basically, it's kind of crazy. Like if you told me 10 years ago that I'd be like most of the way there within a decade, I'd be like, oh, that's bollocks. It's going to take me till I'm 50, but here we are.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yes.
How it's much easier to do that, especially in the South in the United States, than it is in the UK, huh? Like basically create a homestead for yourself.
We don't have any land in the UK. I have like one friend that runs a farm and she's killing it, like absolutely killing it. But like, no, it's not a thing.
There's a channel I watch called Thoughty2. I played a couple stuff from him from Breaking Ancient News last night, but I watched he did a video where like apparently the queen, which is now the king, is the largest landowner in the world, still to this day.
I think so.
I'm gonna grok that right now, but I'm almost positive that
colonialism is over. They taught us that in school when we were little kids. They said it ended.
Well, it would make sense because doesn't he like technically own all the national parks, which would be like most of Canada.
I think so.
A lot of Britain. He owns all the swans. I was explaining the other day. He also owns half the sturgeons. I was explaining that to my husband. He's just like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "We're talking about fish, babe." But yeah, no, it's not. Well, it's also like the weather sucks in Britain. Like that was the other big thing that I hated. Like we don't really have a summer, and if we do, like. I remember one of my friends being like, we've got a heat wave, and it was like 3 days where it was like 73 degrees. And I was like, oh, bless. You guys don't have a flipping clue. But I always thought, like, in fact, literally up until I met my husband, I was planning on just making a bunch of money, saving, because I like living frugally, saving, which would make him laugh now. Because like babies cost a lot of money. I didn't realize, and it's really fun to shop for them. But like I live very frugally. Was just going to save up a bunch of money, go buy a little house in France with enough land around it. So, oh my god, I had it all planned out. I was going to live on a hill just in case like shit goes wrong, and I can sit on the top of the hill and shoot anyone that wants to come and steal my shit. Like I was just on that. And then I moved to the South randomly because I just wanted to get out of LA. met him. Turns out he's from a farming family, farming community, which I didn't even know until I think, or understood like the extent of it until we were already like living together and stuff like that. But I've always had this just like intrinsic belief and understanding that if you look throughout history, humans have fucked it up so many times. Like the fall of Rome, when everyone's like, oh, it just became the church. I was like, that doesn't mean that people didn't like die en masse.
Yeah, over the course of a couple hundred years.
Like, exactly. Just, even just like watching An Inconvenient Truth, it made me trust the government less because I was like, they're not going to help us. Even if this kind of thing happens again, you think they're going to come help us? You're out of your mind. So I was like, let's look at what's happened throughout history, understand what's happening right now, and see if there's a way to kind of track that data and that science to mitigate, at least on an individual level, if you're interested in it, any of that shit happening to you. And then everyone thought I was crazy because I was like, I'm scared of the apocalypse. And then COVID happened, and all of a sudden my friends are all voting for Trump. And I'm like, okay, so that's like the first step. And then once you get like really into it, you realize they're all the same people.
Yes, thank you. That's what happened to me. Yes, that's exactly how it happened.
Yeah. And I don't even know how we got
Screw
off.
you guys for screwing Bernie. I'm going Trump this time. And then it was like
The joke's on.
womp womp womp.
I mean, it's
It was
just
worth a try. It was fun.
yeah. And like the funniest thing for me was like talking to people who were just like, well, the president has so much control. I was like, no, he doesn't. Like he has a lot of control, but he doesn't. He controls us. Like he doesn't control the system.
If you let him, ain't nobody control me.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Well, but what's funny is like, so because we have a podcast, we have social media on like places like Facebook, and Facebook is like this weird, like liberal, like I don't know what to call it, but it's funny because when it comes to Trump, there's like it's like I don't know if it's bots or what, but I don't engage with any of it. But there are people who are posting unironically these like no fact checked at all like memes about Trump, and then you go in there and you look and all these people are like, yeah, and it's like, are you people real? Like, who is actually posting memes about Trump into the algorithm and thinking they're helping anything? You're just doing the exact opposite of helping people. Sorry, that's my rant.
No, it's the dead internet theory. I believe it. I think it's all Russian and Chinese like bot farms.
A lot of
and
it,
like I don't believe half of it. Did you guys see this?
Whole location checking on X.
Yeah.
They did the same thing on Facebook. I bet you would see these are a lot of outsourced bot farms all coming from the same IP address somewhere in a cell phone farm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of them come from like India as well. Like,
for sure.
And it's it's anyone that you can pay money to. Like, set up a bot farm to like push this. Like, people are just gonna do it in a heartbeat, and it's all bollocks. And I think that's
people who believe that's real, like, and mostly boomers, but like also like younger generations who are on there.
I have friends.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, I don't want to hate on boomers, but like boomers are kind of uniquely like susceptible to it because they grew up during a time where everything seemed so trustworthy to them. They grew up in a time where like in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, where everything was so trustworthy, and like so most of their lives they've trusted the system and trusted structures and trusted all these things, and now it's hard for them to come to that conclusion that now I'm 60 and all these institutions were full of shit. That's rough, That's why I have empathy.
Right? Like, it must be so scary. And it's kind of crazy to me how, and I don't know if you've noticed this up in Canada, Dave, but the digital ID thing.
No, I'm in Georgia now for 20 years. So.
Okay. That's good then. But like, back in Britain, I was... There was like a bunch of videos going around. I don't know if you guys saw them about people getting arrested for their tweets, like Graham Linehan being one of,
I've heard the phenomenon, but I wasn't sure if it was propaganda or not.
Oh no, it's 100% real. Okay. So there's a series of shows actually, Black Books, Father Ted, some of the best comedy shows ever. This guy who wrote them, created them, Graham Linehan, he was arrested. 5 officers showed up London Heathrow Airport and arrested him for 3 tweets that he had made. The Met or whoever it was, I can't remember who the arresting body was, but they felt that it was like anti-trans. And it's like, yeah, they were anti-trans. They were very anti-trans tweets because you're allowed to be anti-transgender or anti, this idea that men with mental illness should be allowed in women's spaces. Like, give them their own space. I don't think anyone's opposed to that, but like maybe don't put them in our spaces because we've had to deal with this shit since like the start of our existence. Maybe don't let the predators in the room with us, kind of vibe.
Who
And so
doesn't?
he
Sorry.
got arrested for 3 tweets that he made about that. And then there was a series of other things similar, kind of, oh, you're a racist because you said this on Facebook. Oh, you're homophobic because you said this on, like, no one in the UK is homophobic. Like, that's the other thing. It's like no one actually cares if you're gay. Like, we have great, it's just you're just a regular person. Like, no one cares who you sleep. But all this stuff started kicking off. My husband's just there like, yeah, we're not going back until you become a citizen, because if they see your Twitter, you are going to be arrested. And so when the digital ID thing came out, the number of people I know who, in the same way that they were okay with this guy who created some of their favorite shows being arrested for using free speech, they were just like, oh yeah, okay, like apathetic almost towards it.
It's so
Same
scary.
thing with the digital ID.
That's the question I was going to ask where I was like, blah, 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 while you're talking, but like that, you answered it for me. That's so scary to me that like people don't see that as a huge, huge problem and violation, and the slippery slope that leads
Oh
to.
my God,
I
right?
don't understand how anyone could be either apathetic, A, or B, cheer it on. It makes no sense to me at all. And I don't give a what the guy said on a
Yeah,
tweet. Okay. I don't care what he said. It could be
like
something
it's,
that I am
yeah.
vehemently to the core opposed to, and it hurts me really badly even to read it. I don't care.
Yeah, it's free speech, right, guys? Like,
Yes,
that's the whole point.
it's
People
very
are allowed to
important.
say stuff that you disagree with, because that's how we, that's what philosophy is. It was just a bunch of old dudes with beards sitting around thinking about stuff, and then getting together and arguing about that stuff until like a consensus was made. Like, we're all modern day philosophers thanks to social media. You're allowed to pick and choose what you like and what you listen to, but in the UK, if they don't like what you're picking and choosing to listen to and saying, they're going to throw you behind bars. And so, terrifying. The digital ID thing, again, I should have really put this together before now, but I'm now realizing same thing with COVID and the shutdowns and all that kind of stuff. China did it first. They
How
did it
far along is
successfully.
the UK on the digital ID thing? Because I'm on, like I said, like how far
I'm
along?
not sure. That's a good question. I should look into it, but it's mandatory from what I understand. And it's so funny because my whole family's like, "Oh, is your baby gonna be dual citizen?" I'm like, "No, ew." Like, I don't even want to be a citizen of your country anymore now that you're going for that. Like, you're surrendering your freedoms. You're going to have a social credit score, which means that like 15-minute cities around the corner, which
Yeah,
means that
but Kay, we need to make sure that everyone in the UK is treated fairly, no matter what, across the
yeah,
board. Okay,
yeah,
it just like that's what the goal here. Okay, the goal
hmm,
here is that everyone gets the
yeah,
exact same thing and
yeah.
has the exact same opportunities. Right?
Sounds a little bit like what's that word?
Starts with
Co-
a yeah, starts with a C.
Communism.
Yeah.
Shout out to Keir Starmer and Jimmy Savile. I heard they were connected in the early days.
Oh, I could believe that. Oh my God, Jimmy Savile. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Ugh. But oh God, that was, yeah, that's another one. Have you guys seen on YouTube Scooper of Coop? He's
No,
like
but I'm
this
gonna look it up now.
young kid that started doing I mean, like, to the point where I'm like, dude, you need to start telling people you're not suicidal in your videos. Like, that kind of content, like everything from, yeah, like the sort of like, he did Pizzagate, he did the Oklahoma City bombings, he did oh my God, what was the one that he did a whole series on, and we were like, what? The Las Vegas shootings, that, like, just deep dive. It's like this 22-year-old kid who's like clearly making these videos from like his parents'
Yes.
house. But there's a part of me again where I'm just like, he just started taking off. So I'm like, is he a psyop?
We always
that's
the same thing.
it.
Dave and I always
Everything's-
wonder the same thing. Some suspiciously perfect new podcast. It's got all our favorite guests already. We hadn't heard of it before. It's already got 1 million views. It's like, wait.
Yeah. Oh, I
Well-
believe it. I think half of these people, like, I was having this conversation with a friend of mine who's in media the other day, and he was talking about how he's like a relatively new, like, up and comer, but he's not getting the same opportunities as a lot of people. And I'm like, dude, the only reason people listen to me is because I got a British accent, like, and everyone else is intelligence services, or they're paid by one of a handful of foreign governments. He's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, no, like the
$7,000 a
CIA,
week.
yeah, they all still, like, if someone's gotten that big that fast without having put in that much work, yeah, they're intelligence services, or at least adjacent. He's like, no. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like,
when it comes to psyops and
100%.
stuff in relation to ancient history, it just, like, for example, we didn't get the truth about like the drone stuff from last year. They just swept that under the rug or whatever. So like that was last year. So like, you know, who knows what the Romans were writing about what they were doing and stuff like that. Like the whole truth could be just and that's where, like, when it comes to like you know, language as a psyop, I mean, all you have to do is change a word to like from like intense interrogation instead of torture or whatever, and then it's like totally different idea. You get a totally different picture of what it's called, and that's what they did during COVID, during 9/11 and the global war on terror and blah blah blah. But I wanted to ask you if you watch Age of Disclosure yet. It's the new documentary that just came out that basically has all the psyops all in one place. So it's got all the government quote whistleblowers all in one place. You can psyop yourself for $24.99 on Amazon.
Nice.
Okay. And you'll get the state-sponsored UAP, UFO, like, but you're actually paying to trick yourself that you're getting the truth. That's what you're paying for, but what you're really getting is the state-sponsored, you know, UAP phenomenon. So I haven't watched it yet. Mike hasn't watched it yet. We're gonna watch it. But what do you think about modern UAP like disclosure and these whistleblowers and these military guys coming out and saying they saw this and they saw that? I mean, I
think it's all bollocks. And I wrote a lot. Like I wrote when I started at the Caller, there was a guy who works there who is still a journalist now. You should check out his stuff. His name's David Hookstead. Love David to pieces. He left the Caller. He was, you know, because it's kind of a feeder outlet. I was like probably one of the oldest people there. Like everyone, it's where you go to like really cut your teeth in journalism. And I was just like, I'll just shit post about dumb stuff that I like. And then it turned into a whole thing. But David first covered all of the UFO UAP stuff. And then when he left, he basically wrote me this handbook on how to get into this stuff, how to write about it, how to, you know, give me sources, just like everything. Like he really just set me up for so much success. And I felt bad because like as soon as I started getting into all of it, I was like, this is all bollocks. It was like sad, I think, in some ways. The Lou Elizondo, him, no, like bless your heart, like he's not a real
Limited hangout Lou. But was a cool guy. I think he's entertaining, but he's also been implicated in some pretty dark wizardry. I'll put it off. Just saying.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, don't want to be in that world. The one person who I thought was like,
I would
okay,
eat ribs with Lou. I would have a beer and eat a big rack of ribs with Lou Elizondo. For sure.
oh, I'll hang out with anyone. Like we had William Henry on the show. Well, William Henry's different. Like we had him on the show.
I love William Henry. You pull the string and that guy just talks, man. He's great.
Brilliant. Like, and he gets into all like the bit, like talk about manipulation of like words. Like go read the old Bibles. And I'm a Christian, and I'm like, I don't trust man to, you know, to interpret all of that quite how I trust him more to pick and choose the bits that he likes, which we know that they do. these huge Christian, all religious institutions. Anyway, no. So, okay, the thing that broke me with the UAP UFO stuff was I was a huge fan of Jeremy Corbell's work right when he was coming up.
So like when
And
his documentary came out and Joe Rogan, he was on Rogan and stuff. Yeah, me too. That's
yeah.
yeah.
And I would say actually even like pre-Rogan, because he did a lot, like he did that thing where he kind of crossed both. Like he did a lot of paranormal-ish type stuff and like touched on it with the Skinwalker Ranch,
Mhm.
if I'm getting this right. Like,
Yeah.
and then kind of bled into, you know, the UFO stuff, because there is so much crossover in that community, just like
Mhm.
there's crossover in ancient history and
Mhm.
UFO and conspiracies.
Mhm.
Like it's
Mhm.
all the same, you know, eventually it all bleeds into the same area. But it was when I was writing for the caller, and it was when David Grush was testifying in front of Congress, and there's a photograph, and it's Jeremy, and I think
Mhm.
Lou is in the picture too, and a
Mhm.
couple of other guys,
What's
and
the
then
other
there
guy,
were,
Mike? What's the other
I
guy?
can't remember his
George
With the
Knapp.
name.
gray hair. George Knapp. Yes, thank you.
Yes, George Knapp, and then behind them there was a bunch of other people where like I can't remember who they were, but one of my editors was like, you know who those guys are, right? I was like, no, and he was like, well, you're not really supposed to know. But the look on Jeremy's face, I've never seen anyone so terrified in my life. Like he was like, just I can't even emulate the fear that was just wiped across his face. The only thing I can compare it to is like I've had friends disappear into strange rooms at parties in LA and come out
With the
and
same
been
look.
like, we have to leave. And
Wow.
that was what I saw on his face while he was testifying, like while David Grush was testifying. And that for me, I was like, oh, he's been just put straight into that system. We're not going to be able to seriously dig and dive into anything he says now because it's not controlled by him. He's been told. And it was like,
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I could be
No,
wrong. But
I
I
think
would
you're
love to
right.
see disclosure. I would still
Jeremy
love to see it.
I think Jeremy went into this as an honest man with
Mhm.
an honest agenda. I think once you get us to a certain level, there's no more of that. But also, and I don't even mean that he's not being honest. It's just that it's the concept of the useful idiot, and Jeremy's not an idiot. It's
Mhm.
Fox Mulder was the useful idiot of the X Files, right?
Yeah.
It's they used him. I think this is just my speculation. They used him to push the agenda, get Joe Rogan interested. It's now the documentaries. Now I literally watched that episode and then immediately went to Netflix and watched that
Yeah.
documentary. And it was an excellent documentary made with good intentions. But then fast forward a couple of years later, and then I know the exact picture you're talking about. And, you know, yeah, you're right. Like it's almost an event horizon. You cross that event
Yeah.
horizon in Hollywood, in UAP world, in finance. Once you get a peek behind the magic curtain, there's no going back, and they know that.
Mhm.
They
And
know
it is
that.
kind of scary because it's like, I don't know. I go to the extreme of like I won't drive any new cars. Like I don't want a lot of computers in my car. I don't want.
Mike's the same way.
Yeah,
I
right.
got the last year Toyota made cars with an actual keyed ignition. I have a key. I stick it in
Yes.
and I turn it. And I know the computers are still going to get fried by the solar flare, and I won't have a car. But at least I can stick the key in there for now. Piss on all those wireless. Why do
Yes.
you have a key if it's wireless?
Plus,
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
somebody with
My
ADHD like
20-year-old.
me,
Yeah.
I need to have a key that I take and I stick in the ignition. Otherwise,
Mhm.
like I'm gonna lose my fucking key, right?
Yeah.
The easiest
It
way to
needs to
keep
be
track of
part
your
of the
keys
process.
is the car running. It's in the car.
Yeah. I'm
Good Lord.
exactly the same. But it is like, and especially like the solar flare thing, like
Mhm.
that's just, I don't know. That was probably the scariest Y-Files episode for me. I wrote part of one of them. I
Same.
need to look it up. But that
For
was one of
for
my.
AJ's, that's AJ's scariest one too, and he says that at the beginning.
My
It
absolute
was.
favorite part of that episode, and we're solar flare folks. We get into this stuff. The whole thing that the solar flares was going to reanimate the corpses to become zombies. I had never even connected that. Tremendous. That was great. Great showmanship. Great writing. Great episode.
It's just like I don't even know. He just takes it and runs with it and just makes it the best it could be. And I'm so glad that he didn't get eaten up by Hollywood, because they really missed a trick there, and they're trying to get him back now. But like AJ just He
So-
runs that whole thing. Yeah.
One thing that was interesting that Mike and I kind of pieced it. So we went to Contact in the Desert, which is this UFO conference in where were we, Mike? It was in California. Palm Springs. Yeah. And we were like, we shared a hotel room and we were trying to find like something to watch like after the day. And we actually, Mike's found this like old episode of AJ and his brother on Rogan, like
from like
long
way
time ago.
back.
Before
Yeah.
He seemed very jaded about Hollywood at that time, just in general. And he was at the time they were, I guess they were like trying to burn them on their weed business or something. And it was part of like, you know, but like he seemed jaded about Hollywood all the way back then. So
I mean, it's an easy thing to get jaded by.
if you're a good person, yeah.
I don't even think I'm like, no, I mean, if
I don't mean that. That sounds
no,
bad.
it's accurate.
But it's a predatory thing too, right? So if you go in there at like a young age, look, it's basically they set this standard where if you're not Brad Pitt or working towards that, then you're failing. Instead of like, hey, I'm getting consistent work and I'm getting bit parts here and bit parts there, and I love acting, right? Instead of that, everyone's in there like, I'm not doing a good enough job. I've got to kiss more butt. Oh my god! And then they take advantage of that with your Diddy parties and shit like that, right? And then they compromise people. And I believe that people get compromised young to push like political agendas like climate change and like socialism and like gender ideology and things like that. So.
And it's even like, it's so, at least from my experience, I have like a running joke and I felt so bad. You know, Better Call Saul.
Yes.
The guy who plays Howard Hamlin, the blonde guy, the lawyer. Patrick. His name's Patrick Fabian. I've known Patrick and his wife now for over a decade. In fact, I still owe him. He had this like running joke. He was like, I'm not a fiction writer. He's like, Kay's gonna write something one day and win me my first Emmy. And I was just like, dude, I can't write. I can't even lie. Like, I can't write fiction. And I think you're going to get there well before I could get you there, because he is such an excellent actor. He plays the bad guy so amazingly and has been in entertainment since like the 80s, I'm pretty sure. But we have, I felt kind of bad when I posted it. But when it comes to actors specifically, there are so many people out there in the acting world who think they are the best thing in the universe. I've never met such a degree of like intrinsic normalized narcissism than I've met just hanging out in Hollywood. Like, I used to write about actors, so I'd go to acting schools to see who the next up and comer was going to be. And it's sad watching these people go from like, oh my God, I'm going to make it. I think I'm going to work really, really hard. I'm going to get my first show. And now I know everything. And I'm the best person and like, more people burn out from their first show because they are such dicks to work with. Like, I know I could list so many people that I remember the first time I saw their stuff or I like read their stuff. I was like, you're going to be the next big thing. They got the big show. They got the leading role. And then they just became so intolerable. They really didn't work again. And so I posted this thing like, it's so crazy to me that there are people out in Hollywood who think that they're good actors and think they know everything, but they've never even done stage. And like, doing stage work is brutal. Like, it is so hard to do. And that's why half of Hollywood doesn't do it, because they don't want to put in that effort. They don't want to work that hard to really be successful at something that they have to do night after night after night. If they do it really well, they have to do it year after year after year. And it's killer. One of my best friends who I grew up with, Rosie Shea, she's, you know, like an Olivier nominated actress now. And I give her so much shit because she's like one of the few actors I've ever met who you would never know she was an actor to spend time with her, because she works harder than like most people I know. She works the most insane hours. She has to completely fundamentally change her brain for huge portions of time and become another person, and you can't snap out of it. You can't just be like, cut, I messed up that scene, let me go to craft services, do my hair. Like, you know, it's just it's absolutely brutal. And so that side of acting is a beast unto itself. But most acting in Hollywood, like even like the biggest guys, they spend like 5 minutes in front of the camera and then they get treated like royalty for like the next 20-15 minutes while
It's
they
not good for your
reset.
brain. It's not good for your brain to have people like not say no to you and treat you like royalty and stuff. Most people, most humans can't like
Mhm.
handle that appropriately.
Yeah, I
It's not
agree.
good for
Well,
you.
Patrick's one of the few people who can do that. And I will say, all the guys I've met who've worked with Vince Gilligan, because he gets people very involved in what he does. And then all the guys who do the Taylor Sheridan shows, he kicks your ass before you even are allowed to be on his shows. Like, if you don't survive cowboy camp, you don't get to be in any of his shows, basically, at this point.
Is Taylor Sheridan Firefly?
I don't know if he did Firefly, but he did Hell or High Water, Yellowstone, Tulsa
Okay.
King, now Landman, Sicario. He was actually originally on Sons of Anarchy. That was like where he got his break, and then he went to the other side of the camera. But he'll like it's legit, and that's why
No,
I think at this
I was
point the only
wrong.
people
No
I
Firefly.
watch other than YouTube. but but yeah, like I again, that's sort of probably why AJ and I bonded over it, because like you go in thinking, oh, these people are, you know, they're so incredible, they work so hard, they do so many cool things, isn't it so cool that they're actors? And then you realize that they spend like 6 hours a day at the gym. And you're like, no, you're just a bunch of thugs.
Yeah.
You're just a bunch of meathead thugs who are spoiled out of your fucking minds, and you cry when you don't get a commercial. Grow up, get a real job.
Well,
At
yeah. I
this
mean,
age.
idolatry is like on first one of the tops on the list of the big book. But you know, I, I've just had experiences where you know you not meet your hero, but similar, where it's like, oh, this guy's an asshole. In
Mhm.
fact, wasn't my hero, but growing up in Canada, hockey's a big deal, and this famous hockey player named Patrick Waugh, who was basically the goalie of hockey. He came to my small little crappy town in Nova Scotia, so we were so excited, and we waited like hours to like get something signed from him, and then he had to go. And so he left. We were like two people away, and they left. Okay, and me and my brother are like 10. All right. So we're
Oh.
sad, and we're dragging our hockey sticks home to the back parking lot, and there we see him and his two handlers, and my brother's like, Mr. Waugh, can we get? And he just jumped in the car and drove off. But he had a total opportunity to do it. We were just 10 years old. Nobody was there. It would have taken him 2 seconds. But the point is like I learned very young that like, you know, these people are just people. I'm not mad at Patrick Waugh. You know, everyone gets diarrhea is my phrase, and that means and that's and that normalizes everyone, right? I
Yeah.
mean, Brad Pitt, you know, probably had diarrhea last month, so he can
Mhm.
get off of his high throne. You know what I'm saying?
He's a
And,
teeny tiny man with a giant head as well. He
have
doesn't
you
look
seen him
like
in
it.
person?
He lived around the corner from a friend of mine. I saw him walking one morning
He
with like
seems
all his
very tall.
bodyguards. He's not. He's a little dude with a giant head.
So they're
I
very
like
Yeah.
good
Tom
at
Cruise.
tricking us in Hollywood
Oh yeah.
about people's
They
men's
all have
heights.
big faces. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that sucks to go through that when you're 10 years old. But you're right. Like, they do all get the shits, except for the lizard people. And they
Yeah,
all
lizard people don't get diarrhea. That's for sure.
lizard people.
Yeah, the lizard people definitely do not get diarrhea. So let's move to the new podcast with Mike. Mike, that's been great so far.
Thank
And
you.
I've been wondering how that got started, and I know that Mike's taken this sort of uh, promotional role, like for the conferences, and he's got his hands on all these different things. So did he just reach out and say, "Hey, Kay, do you wanna do podcast with me?" Or how did the idea come up?
I can't remember who I was writing for. Oh, you know what it was? I was working for this one company up until the start of the summer. And like I've always watched Mike's stuff.
Yeah,
'Cause
of
it's like
course.
so, he's like I sort of put him up there with like the outdoor boys type vibe because like you
Mhm.
feel like you're there watching his things. And we got to get you guys on
Yes.
the live stream as well. We have to set that up.
Sure, that'd be great.
But I was I was trying to set up this one media outlet, and then they ended up actually stealing all of my IP, but that's a story for another day. Yeah, people do that. That's again why my husband built my new one. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. But I didn't know Mike's last name. I know that sounds so stupid. I could have just Googled it. But we always followed each other. So I was like, dude, I'm writing about you and Jimmy and all the stuff that you did at a Gobekli Tepe. I'm going to start covering your videos. Same with Dan debunking. Let's just get you guys on the list. But tell me how you want me to, firstly, what's your last name? Didn't know what his last name was. But how do you want me to refer to you? And so then that became just like an ongoing stream of conversation.
Cool.
I think more so about, I don't know, it always starts with the work. And then when you realize how many people we all know and hang out with, it's like, oh, it's like an extension of like
Mhm.
friendship.
Mhm.
And then so same thing, he was like struggling to get videos out because he really wanted the voiceover to be good. So I was like, I'll write your voiceover. Like, whatever, like, don't worry about it. So we just had the first one come out now, the Easter Island episode. So I wrote the voiceover for that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Because Mike is so busy. People don't realize this. Like, yeah, he travels all the time, like all the time. He which is great for like me and Sammy, who are like the behind the scenes. Sammy is our producer who does everything you see visually, other than like when Mike is actually on the ground. It's all Sammy. She's a freaking genius. So it's great because Mike goes off and does all of these trips, films all of this incredible content. Sammy then kind of puts it together, and then I write the narrative that fills the gaps where Mike hasn't, like I do a lot of the background research because I love that shit. That's like my bread and butter. And so it was very quick, it was very natural, same sort of thing, just like came out of nowhere. Um and I was also at a point where I think this was August, we started talking about it. And I had left that last job, actually not because they stole my IP. It's a whole other kettle of fish to get into that story. They did a lot of fucked up shit. And so I was kind of jaded, was like, I don't know if, I've been saving up for like years. So I was like, I need to just take some time to not be stressed while I'm going through my first pregnancy. um let's just do like little bits here and there. And so doing little bits for like Mike's show, my regular media stuff. I just finished the first draft of my book for my first book deal, which was exhausting. And it was so crazy because like all of that happened, and I kind of decided like maybe I want to take a step back. And then Charlie Kirk got shot.
Mm.
And I didn't know Charlie personally, but I knew pretty much everyone that came up through Turning Point. Because they all came through the caller. It was like you start Turning Point, then you go to Daily Caller, and then you go out into, you go to Fox, you go here, you go there, you go wherever. Um, and so that was like a big shift for me where I was like, okay, what am I going to do when I grow up? Kind of vibes. And so we'd been talking about doing the live stream, and I think we did our first live stream the week after. I want to say, or maybe 2 weeks after that. And it was so chill. Like I just realized we've been talking for, I mean, I know I talk a lot, but like, and thank you for listening to me, but like we've been talking for like an hour and 40 minutes, and it feels like I'm in here for like 10 minutes because
It's
it's just
chill,
hanging
right?
out with, it's like hanging out with friends. It is literally
Yeah.
hanging out with friends.
Mhm.
So it's like the biggest blessing to be able to do this stuff. And so I think like the live stream was just such a natural progression
It
for
seemed
all
that
of
way.
us.
It seemed a lot natural,
Yeah.
even from the first episode, and when you guys were figuring
Yeah.
out some kinks and stuff, it just seemed like it was like, yeah, natural. And so what's
Same with
the
you guys.
Oh, I appreciate that. What's the
Yeah.
intention with is it going to be a live stream, and then like are you going to stick with just ancient history and people in the community for now, or what's the intention like for the future?
So I think the main goal to start off with was to just focus on all the people who we knew were going to be speaking at the conference, because
Sure.
there's only so much you can put into an hour speech at a conference.
Yeah.
We were like, well, let's run a live stream because there's a gap in the market in this area anyway for just honing in on kind of pushing and promoting our friends, basically. Like, I guess
Yeah.
that's really what we wanted to do, was like, who has a book coming out, who's speaking at conferences, who's got a new show, who's got this, who's got that, and how can we, with our individual platforms, push that. Because I go on national television 3, sometimes 5 times a week. Why am I not using this to promote my friends who do way better work than me and harder work than me, you know? And
That's
so
one
there was kind of that aspect of it.
That's one thing I'm noticing,
Yeah.
though. Gravity around Mike is that everyone's pushing everyone else, and I think that's what Mike is doing somehow in the community.
He's a good guy. He has no angle. He never talks about himself. He never
No,
talks
it's
about
hard to
his
get
own
him to.
work.
And when you
It
try
is
to
really
compliment him,
hard.
he won't take
Oh,
it.
he won't take that shit at
No.
all. Like, he's so self-deprecating, and that makes him so lovable for sure. But it's also a nightmare for me when I'm trying to like promote the stuff.
Mhm.
No, I love to shit on Mike because he is so lovable, and he knows
Mhm.
it's not like real or true or anything like that. But he just, there's so much animosity, I think. Well, we'll have to talk about this off stream, but there was a handful of things that I think happened in this field amongst all of these like thought leaders, and like I
Mhm.
guess lots of like little things where we started to see a few fractures, like people
Mhm.
trying to get their own celebrity, people trying
Mhm.
to exploit others with celebrity, which
Yeah.
was like the easy, like, if you want me to go from 0 to 100, like, I was known as like the Beth Dutton of Daily Caller, because I was like completely fine and normal, and then if someone said or did something that I thought was not okay, I would just fucking lose my mind. But that's the Welsh in me. And so seeing people and friends get exploited, see their work almost get stolen, seeing people actually
Mhm.
exploit, and like there are some huge names in this field where they'll go and travel and go to like ancient Egypt, they'll go to Turkey, and they'll steal from the sites. They'll just pocket stuff from the floor. And I wrote about it a little bit at Daily Caller, but then it wasn't until after I left that I realized how prolific that was. And so I think when Mike and I were sitting down talking about like what are we trying to push here, both with his channel and with this live stream, and he's like, we all get along as friends. There is no individual celebrity, there is no ego, and if there's anyone trying to push just their own thing and grab and try to be the be all end all, they need to be checked. Well, he didn't say that, I said that. But we really need to remind people that when we work together, like him and Jimmy at Göbekli Tepe, we see real change in the science. And so
Mhm.
that's really where Mike came from, was like normalizing community, normalizing this idea of all of us working together to
Mhm.
shift the way that this practice is, like to
Mhm.
revolutionize it really. And like that was all Mike. That's all him. That's just who he is.
Yeah, and it's the exact opposite direction of Hollywood, right, Mike?
It's important that you said that because something that Dave and I had brought up before on the show. Yeah, we like to brag about how it's alternative community, open-minded free thinkers, but we could very rapidly descend into more factionism and then
Mhm.
starting to like worship one faction leader where it's like, yeah, so and so knows everything about everything. You don't got to listen to
I
nobody
see that
else.
happening in the
We have to stay
smaller.
vigilant and avoid
Yeah,
that in our community and
we
stay
do.
open-minded and respect people for what they bring to the table.
And I'm not saying that there aren't a few people that do that already, but there's one or two who do it who are already ostracized from all the places where they could grab power. So I'm not worried about it. And those who are like that, who are maybe not ostracized, but you know, they don't. I don't want to name names because it's a lot of people who are young and I've seen them change already for the better. Like there are a few people who came out in this field who were like, I'm going to go on every show and I'm going to know everything and I'm just going to work for self-promotion. They're not doing it as much anymore because they realize like, guys, we can all hang out and actually have fun with this. And if you do try and push just your own celebrity, it's going to bite you in the ass.
Yeah, that's happened to, unfortunately, some people we know.
It's
And
important to
go ahead, Mike.
Sorry, I was going to say it is important to have fun because in a community that entertains different ideas, you always have to exercise discernment. And sometimes at the end of an episode, you got to say, you know what, that was a great campfire story, but not but that it's a campfire story.
But that's okay, right? Like,
okay,
who cares?
okay.
Like, you don't have to agree with your friend just because he thinks that, you know, 3i Atlas is creating a warp bubble with a CO2 nickel plasma engine. That's fun to hear, but I don't have to agree with it, you know?
Yeah.
I
and
was
that's like,
that,
it's the ones who get angry when you say, I don't know if I agree with that. Or it's the ones where it's like they go on Twitter and try and shit on one of us. It's like,
oh my gosh, the
not gonna
shitter
work
twit.
for us.
I almost said shitter twitting. The Twitter shitting is the Twitter shitting is one of the lowest of the low like level like engagement farming like that I feel like you can do. We've all had typed one out and then erased it or whatever, sent one we didn't want to send later, I don't know, but like there's people out there that do it like as a tactic, like to raise their profile.
It's tacky and it doesn't work and it doesn't last like a long time. That's the other thing that I think is so, because like it's like what I was saying, about Hollywood. I mean, they're not like friends now, but when I first moved out there, I had a friend who was absolutely nothing, like didn't even have an agent. He just had this little like crew of people around him and he was like the baby brother of the crew. And then in the space of, and I said to all of them at the time, I was like, he's going to be the next big thing. I was like, I don't care what you guys think. I know you think he's a baby in this industry, fresh out of LA County jail, but like he's got that that star talent kind of it factor. He's going to be the next big thing. Landed a huge show, leading role, or like co-lead, I guess. The show didn't do great, but it did well enough to give him that first little oomph. Half the guys that were in his little crew were like, you only made it because of us. None of them have worked since. But he went so extreme in the other direction of being like, no, I'm the next big hot thing, that he hasn't really booked anything since, because even though Hollywood is like it's not the same because there's a lot of like nasty stuff that goes on behind closed doors that gets people roles. But if you're a difficult person, if you have a reputation for not being a team player, like Brad Pitt, for example, wonderful team player, really nice guy. Like I can reel off so many different names of like A-list celebrities who you would think were assholes, but they're actually really good, nice people who they send gifts to everyone on set. They learn everyone's names. They're the ones who make it. And so I think there's like this mischaracterization that you have to be a diva to be successful. But actually, if you're a diva, you're going to drown pretty fast and no one's going to throw you a life jacket.
The staying power comes from like the connections you build and the relationships you build, and that's kind of what we're trying to do with our show, and just platform people in the community who we feel like have good ideas that don't really get platformed. And so, Mike grew up lucky. He wasn't like his parents didn't let him get indoctrinated by Hollywood. I did. And so Mike has a very good relationship with TV and stuff like that. But like, for me, I had to peel myself away from like, you know, the indoctrination, because we grew up in the 80s and 90s, and it's like that's what everyone did. That's what you were told to do. Like it's like Friday night we watch this show, Sunday we watch this show. We get everyone. Think about how easy it would have been to psyop everyone back then, because everyone was eating the same sandwich.
Oh
It's
yeah,
crazy.
100%. It is like, and I think they did in certain ways,
Oh,
but
they did for sure.
but it's like, oh, that's so nice, Mike. That must. So, did you just not watch a lot of that stuff growing up? Your parents like kept you away from the TV type vibes.
Yes. So, I mean, it was a fairly religious upbringing. So there was certainly
Oh,
like
yeah.
substitute media that was used, which was still really insightful for me because I was able to see sort of what is in the, what do you call it, secular world versus what's in a different world. And that really perspective is still having a positive childhood. I've carried that with me to this day, which is why I don't trust any sides of anything and always think for myself.
That's okay. So that makes me feel better because we want to do the same thing with our children. And, you know, it's a lot easier now thanks to like Angel Studios. And, you know, I love Dallas Jenkins and everything he's done with The Chosen.
Snake Bros for kids. Snake.
Right. But it is like, you know, there's so much opportunity out there to avoid the indoctrination. But that really wasn't when we were growing up. I think my parents were they spent all their money on travel, so we only had 4 TV channels, so I didn't get a lot of that indoctrination.
What in the UK, I gotta make a note because I just brain farted on my question. 1 second, we'll go 1:54. We're going up on 2 hours.
Yeah, we are getting close.
I was gonna say,
I had a question a minute ago, but I forgot it too. I'm thinking like 5 minutes back. I don't remember what question was.
I did. Let's start wrapping it up. But I wanted to wrap up with asking you about the new. You have a new book deal. I didn't even know you had a new book deal. Would you please tell us about that? What's the book about, and how's that going?
Don't ever write a book. If you guys have ever, just don't do it. It's like the worst thing you'll ever do. But no, I can't go too into it because it's still in we're going through the final round of edits. But going back to my fascination with avoiding the apocalypse, qualitative research, it's my bread and butter. How do people respond to social decline in this particular book? But we look at specifically the decline of masculinity and what are some methods to mitigate that. And so it's kind of great because the last year, I would say, we've already had this like massive surge in the sort of almost like a renaissance, I think, in appreciation of masculinity. Like, it's been fantastic. I can't tell you the number of women I know who've like just come out and been like, you know what? Everything was a lie. I don't need a career. I don't need to be out of the house for like 8 to 12 hours a day. This doesn't make me happy.
It's also not bad for
make us any money.
It's not good for your family or your kids either. Like, so
No.
one or the other.
Renaissance. It's common sense. It's kicking back in.
I'm so here for it. Like, that's such a good way of putting it. But just really like focusing on that. And my co-author Carl, he got me that book deal. Like, we were on the phone for 6 minutes with the publisher. We got a book deal. It was insane.
I love the idea. I'm hoping that when it comes out, we like the platform book, so we come on for a live stream and we'll promote your new book. But you probably don't need help, but we'll still help you anyway.
No, oh my gosh, I'll take it. Thank you. I'm kind of terrified because there's a lot of stuff in there. Like, even my co-author, like, I was like, Carl, you're never going to be able to run for office once this goes out. And he's just like, I don't give a shit.
It needs to be said. Masculinity is valuable to society. And there's different versions of it, and there's different like and there was a concerted effort to quote toxify it over the last 10 years, and and that I do think is like on purpose. You know, that some of the people that spread that stuff, maybe they think that they're spreading it in a way like they think they're doing a good thing because they've been indoctrinated, they believe what they're saying, but the intent, like, that you can trace that back through the social sciences to these ideas, like way back into the 60s.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think it eventually all became on purpose. And so somebody, like, for example, like I went to the University of Southern California, super liberal school, to get my master's of social work. And I was like one dude, like there was like 5 dudes and like 150 women in my
Mhm.
program or something. And I'm trying to think of the right way to say this, but the women that were in my program, like they were all into, because that's what we were being indoctrinated to, like equality, and which equality isn't real and it doesn't exist. Equality of opportunity is nice, but it doesn't always happen. But the point is they were all into all these ideas, yet they actually wanted a masculine man,
Yeah.
which is so strange.
It's funny
It's
because
yeah.
it's almost like an anti-Darwinist thing. Charles Darwin,
Mhm.
of course, famous biologist, he observed a lot about how animals behave. And it's like, let's see, if you had an apex species and you wanted to convince them to jump off the top of the food chain like a high dive, how would you convince them to do it? Turns out the instinct kicks back in, and we're calling it a renaissance of common sense.
Yeah. It's that's so funny. Yeah, the Darwinism approach. I mean, I look back at it and like my big thing is I think it all comes down to that push for, I'm gonna sound like Alex Jones now. It's like it's all about depopulation. Like that's really what the baseline comes down to. They're gonna turn half of us into robots, and then there's gonna be the elites, there's gonna be the servant class, there's gonna be a handful of us farmers who make it through. Like that's what they're gunning for. But thankfully, all those people who are gunning for that stuff, for the most part, they're getting old, they're dying. It's your Klaus Schwabs of the world.
Yeah,
No one cares about those
yeah,
glorified Bond
yeah,
villains anymore, thank
yeah.
God. But so it's like the great, like, yeah, the renaissance of common sense. But yeah, it's crazy. Like people sit there and go, oh, we've got like declining populations in the West. Like it's so crazy. I don't know what's going on. I have a lot of friends who go down like the medical route with it, and I'm like, yeah, a lot of it's like you can just basically trace it back to women being told that having kids isn't special or important, which is
Oh,
the
that's insane. It's
biggest
the most
fucking
special
lie
thing.
ever.
Yeah,
Like,
literally the most incredible thing that happens
yeah.
on the planet. What's going on here?
Oh
Shout out
yeah, it
to all
feels
the
so
moms,
incredible.
all
No,
the
I'm just
moms.
kidding.
Good Lord. Yeah, not every, I know of a lot of relationships just around where the men have sort of taken a back seat in traditional masculinity in the relationship, and then this, you know what this leads to, like a lot of not like a sexless marriage, and
Yep.
the wife making all the decisions and not respecting their husband. And then when the husband tries to get some of that back, it's too late.
Yep.
And it's something I see like around, and and it's a yin and yang. It's not that difficult.
It's
you
really
know?
not. Like, I think people overcomplicate it
Yeah.
so much. And it was crazy when I was like writing the dissertations. Again, like I said, like all of these problems are solved in science. All you've got to do is, go out and literally you can use Google Scholar and you can find these
Mm-hmm.
studies. But
Mm-hmm.
it was just so simple to me. Like, I think the first one that really broke my brain was it was an organizational psychology thesis, basically looking at women in leadership roles in the workplace. And when they come in and try to act like a man and like be a masculine kind of leader, they're going to be out of the job within a year because everyone's going to hate them. If they come in and act like a mom, they're probably going to end up revolutionizing their workplace. And it was like that
Exactly.
simple. And then when you go to the marriage side of things, when the woman comes in and tries to act like the man and tries to lead the family, and this was like I mean, I guess I'd technically already been saved, but I hadn't really like lent into my relationship with Christ at this point. But when I started reading about like, yeah, women who try to lead in relationships, the relationship doesn't last and it's not happy if it does last. And so I was like pretty much that, like, I don't think I was ever going to get married. I was like, I'm good. Like, I'll just become, like a hermit. I'll go live in France on my hilltop and farm chickens and whatever. I
That
was like,
kind of
so
sounds dope,
set for
though.
that.
It sounds
It
pretty
was,
dope.
yeah, it's not that far off how I live now. And I am married. But no, when I met my husband, I remember my mum said to me at one point, she was like, you acquiesce so much to John, like you give in so much. I think she used the word acquiesce, so that's why it like stuck with me. And I was like, well, I guess I kind of realized, and I wish more women would do this, but I kind of realized like I don't really care about a lot of the decisions and the choices that I'm given. So like, what are we having for dinner tonight? I don't really care. Like there is, if I really want something or if I'm craving something, I would have already told you what I really want and what I'm already. I probably would have, like, now I'm pregnant. I probably would have already eaten it. I've gained like 45 pounds this pregnancy. It's insane. My arms are like a nightmare. But with John, it's just been like we're so happy and content because he leads in every single area. And so it's really interesting going in and being able to sort of put that into the book. I know it's going to piss a lot of people off, but like, I'll be honest with you, all the people I think I'm going to piss off are my single friends, all my friends in sexless marriages. And not to get like make this too dirty, but one of the things I have said to so many of my friends who have bad marriages, I'm like, a blowjob a day keeps the whores away. I'm not saying literally, but like good communication and a healthy sex life. If you don't have those two things, you don't have a marriage. And it's kind of sad, yeah, like you said, Dave, how many men will just kind of give up on it. And then when they try to rebuild it, there's so much weirdness that goes on with female
animosity.
like it's hard to get that back without a lot of work. And it's kind of sad because it
They've
shouldn't
given
be.
up on it because
Yeah.
they've been told it's bad, you know?
Mhm.
And you know, there's
Weaponizing
and
it. Yeah.
I want to say something though, because there is a version of what I do consider toxic in quote masculinity, and this is the sort of 1940s 1950s version where you work your ass off and you make all the decisions for the family, but everything's on you and you don't put anything on everyone else. You don't show any emotions at all. You don't communicate. That's toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And that's like all of our grandparents from the war generation, they came back and that's how they led their family. And that's and they that those are some of those masculine motherfuckers of all time. Okay.
Yeah.
But they also came back from war damage, so there's part of that with it. And so for example, I was telling you about like I'm a social worker. I was typically in a work environment. Like my last job was 57 women and me, right? And in an environment like that, I exude masculinity. I'm like the most masculine guy around. But in real life, I'm kind of in the middle of the road. I'm very kind and sensitive, and I'm a caretaker at heart. And it's one of those things where like masculinity is not just like it's about it to me. It's about like being yourself as a leader, not being a leader that you think you should be. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, no, it's like an authentic kind of leadership.
Yes.
Because that's sustainable.
Yes.
And, you know, like the way that my marriage is should not be the way that every marriage is. Like, okay, so Carl, my co-author, I can sit here and talk all day about how women shouldn't have to be like full on in the workplace all the time. His wife terrifies me because she is one of the hardest working, kick ass, just excels at everything. Like she, like even just, you know, like she could touch something and it'll turn to gold. And she works really hard and they have a completely different financial everything set up to the way that John and I are, but they communicated about that extensively. I think even before they got married, went into their marriage understanding that like she was still going to work because she has this incredible career. Like I'm sitting here saying like I don't work, but like, you know, I do work. I work a lot. I just don't
work a lot.
You know, I just hang out. It doesn't feel like work.
But you don't go like leave the house to like for 50 hours a week, and
I've never
10
done
of it's
that, though.
commuting.
Yeah.
You're not going on business meetings in
No.
California every month and shit like that.
Commuting is a
No,
psyop.
but I
Commuting is a
do.
psyop.
Yeah, right. Oh, it is. It totally is. And I've never been like, I'm like, if you want to get the worst out of me, put me in an office. But then like Carl's wife will go off and do all of that stuff, but they have like they're both that's just both like they're both going to be retired if they want by the time they turn 50, and they'll never have to work again, and they will just chill out for the rest of their lives if they want to. And there are like that's what works for like their marriage, but they work really hard to make that work for their marriage in the same way that we have other friends. They both technically work from home, but sometimes they work up to 16 hours a day, both of them in front of the computer. And like, yeah, I couldn't do that either. Again, it's all like a psyop. It's all to do with like, the sort of slave state. Everyone has debt. Most people, anyone who bought a house kind of thing, in the last few years, I'm like,
I
but
got so lucky. We got ours in 2017.
oh, so smart. We rent the house that we live in, like the farm that we live on now, because I was like, I don't do debt. Like on our first date, John's just like, what do you mean? I was like, I mean, like, I won't even do a mortgage. I'd rather work for the next 10 years and buy something outright, because I don't want to have like that hanging over my head. And he's like, you're insane. But whatever. It's still, we also don't know where we're gonna live. But going back to like, yeah, the sort of the psyop, and I think what you said about the post-war. Firstly, like, me and my cousin, she works in mental health, and we've talked about this a lot. My grandparents, or our grandparents, they didn't go to war, but my hometown and the surrounding area was really heavily blitzed by the Nazis. Like it wiped out huge portions actually of my hometown. And my grandparents were young. They were sent into their bomb shelters. They had so much untreated PTSD, and it's so funny because like other members of the family will be like, they didn't have any trauma, and I'm like, yeah, they did. Did you not see all of
trench
this
warfare? Do you know what trench warfare is?
Yeah, like straight up. And like my grandfather was doing like water testing to make sure the Nazis hadn't poisoned our water. Like that's a stressful job. So there's all of that, and then you go back even further, like pre-industrial revolution, we had like at least 12,000 years when the man didn't actually really, for the most part, leave the house to go and work. He was a blacksmith and did most of his work at home, or he was
Farmer.
I look at some of like the homesteaders, like, or you would live above your shop, like you would live above your bakery, things like that. And so this idea of like family separation is like very, very new. And I think the consumerist mindset and the normalization of consumerism has, that's one of the biggest things. Like I can't tell you, like even people who I know who don't work, who've like never really worked, who are like, oh, I would never buy anything from a thrift shop. And I'm like, then you're a fucking idiot. You're just selling and buying shit that you don't need, overpriced, massively overpriced, because of what some like narcissistic egotism that comes from what Jeff Bezos telling you you should have new things.
Come on, I needed Michael Jackson's Bad on vinyl in 24 hours, Kay. Okay, I just needed it, and I don't care how much carbon or what kind of asshole had to throw that out, take it out of a bin and throw it into a truck and then drive it to my house. Next time, I want a drone delivery, okay?
I want my pizza delivered by drone.
Yes.
Oh my God. I can't believe this is
It's
how
funny,
we live.
though,
But yeah.
Consumerism is one of the main things I think is a big clue, like a big red flag that we need to re-examine what's going on with the education system. How many people does the education system process? They spit out highly educated on the other side, and they're just obedient consumers with bigger opinions. They're like, oh, well, I know I'm highly educated and I buy this, that, or the other because climate change. It's like, how many of these people know how a single thing on any store shelf got there? How it got made, how it got there? They don't know nothing.
Nothing.
But that's the education system is there to give people that high-paying corporate job. You think you know stuff, you don't know nothing.
Yeah, they don't. Oh, that was so well said, Mike.
The day Mike explained to me where paper came from, I was like, whoa. He took me to this paper manufacturing plant. It looked like something from Dr. Seuss. It looked like it's just like a massive plant that thousands of people work at 24 hours a day. They got engineers and shit. And I'm going, wow, this is how my, because like I'm one of these people, right? I don't know how half the shit that I use gets to me, right? So anyway,
if the education system wanted to fix that, they could. My point is to say there's hope. We can teach people stuff is important. You should learn how to make it so you can appreciate how it gets made. Maybe know how to make it yourself when one day the institution that runs the store isn't there for you.
Yeah, because it's not going to be there. And that don't even, oh my God, we had a day, our last house, which was not a house, it was like a slum. Like the day we moved in, there were just like birds in the house, and we were like, okay, great, this is how we live now. Oh, it was such a bad house. It was such a shithole. But yeah, there was a day we woke up and nothing was working, and I think like I leave my phone at like 7 p.m. I just don't look at it really afterwards unless I'm doing the live stream.
That's a good idea.
I don't want, that gives me a headache, and I think that's God's way of being like, get this thing away from you. But there was one day we woke up and all the power was out. John's phone wasn't on. I couldn't find my phone. And I was like, oh my God, the solar storm hit overnight and we slept through it. Oh my God. I was like, John, we don't have any guns. We don't have any guns in this wehouse. Like, we have 3 days. We're gonna have to walk to your father's house. Like, it was it took me a second. I think then that was when I pitched to AJ doing one of those episodes. But it was like that split second of like, oh, we're not actually prepared for this. And we need to be better. And so he thinks like okay, great example of leadership. John's not as worried about, and my husband John is not as worried about that kind of stuff as I am, but he never makes fun of me. He never tries to stop me. When I bring chickens home and he's like, why do we need more chickens? And I'm like, so next time the power goes out and it's out forever, guess what we've got, John? We've got eggs, which means we've got food, which is a protein, and it's a good thing. He's just like, why do you have like 6 tents? And I'm like, we might have to go sleep in tents. We don't know. What happens if one gets attacked by a bear? And
but this is your leadership, though, too. Like, this is a different form of leadership that needs to happen in a relationship, too, I think. And I know we're shitting on consumerism, but there is a Black Friday sale I wanted to mention that's actually very appropriate. The Ultimate Guide to Rebuilding Civilization, the book.
Yes.
It's actually pretty dope, and it's only $99. But this is a modern artifact. It's hand illustrated. It's wild. It's like you want to learn how to build a social system or a sundial or like, whatever. It's all in there. So check it out. I just want to share that really quick.
Heck yeah. Everyone needs to go get that.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. I think, I could probably figure out a sundial on my own, but after that I'm fucked. So I could really use that. Couple quick questions before we wrap it up. Kay, who is so in American sports, the GOAT is the greatest of all time. Who is your GOAT of lost ancient civilization?
I mean, it's got to be Graham. He normalized it. Like, I'm biased because like him and the family have just been nothing but wonderful to me. He also looks just like my dad, which everyone points out after they meet my dad. It's just like, oh, Graham looks just like, I'm like, I know. But yeah, it's got to be Graham. I don't think half of us would be here doing this if it weren't for him, which I think is really cool.
I wouldn't be. And then an extension to that question is, because nobody can ever agree who's the GOAT at basketball or whatever. So then the extension is the Mount Rushmore. So if you're going to carve a mountain of 4 heads for lost ancient history, who's going on that mountain?
Oh, this is a really hard question. I should have prepared for this because like I've seen other people do it and I'm like, fuck. I'm like, oh. So, I mean, Graham's right there. Obviously, he still is. Like, he just deserves all of that. I think Randall belongs up there, even though he more leans into the climatological side and the actual physical geographies. You don't get one without the other. Like, human and physical geography is so intrinsic, like, to each other. I don't think, unless you're literally just in an urban landscape, which is like, ugh. So Randall is up there for me because he really bridged that gap. I think actually it's gonna be, I think I'm gonna get like a little bit of I don't think I'll get pushback for this, but I think actually I would put Mike up there, not just because I'm biased, like Mike Collins, Wandering Wolf, although Mike, you belong up there too. But I put him up there because one of the things that, and the reason actually I got to be on Newsmax and all of these different networks is because a couple of friends who noticed one day that I would predict things in people's lives and behaviors and it would come to fruition. And I just feel like Mike is at the very, very, very start of building something. He's building something that's going to outlive him. And I think it's going to be a community and a running behavioral theme that people will look back on. And I don't think it's just going to be like, oh, we're all going to get together and be friends and it's going to be great. But the way that he goes about visiting these places, how so many people have been able to go and visit ancient sites because of him and his work. I think he's at the start of something that's going to fundamentally change this industry and culture for the good. And so I'm excited to see that come to fruition. And then.
So you went Randall, Graham, Mike. I got one more.
This is so hard. And I know afterwards I'm going to be like, shit, I should have said that person.
Well, you're on the spot, so don't put too much pressure on yourself.
No, I think God, there's a lot of people from history that I think I could choose, but I'm just not as well versed in their stuff as I am with the contemporaries. So part of me wants to put Jimmy up there because I see him as such a pirate. And that was like something that we really thrived at Daily Caller, was like, how do you, it's like, yes, it's like the swashbuckling, but it's really like the pillaging, like let's get the good stuff and share it amongst all of us. And I think Jimmy's got like huge, again, potential. Like I know I get angry at stuff that we see go on in this field, and Jimmy kind of opened a door to at least communicating across disciplines. Like you don't have to communicate like him, but he was the first person to really start calling out the academics. And so now that the light has been shone on them, I think that all of us can now go in and have those like conversations. So again, I think that's just like a massive cultural shift that he's really at the start of, and more people will do it moving forward, maybe with less cuss words. But I can see that, and I think that, I think Jimmy's up there for me as well. And I really just love when people start bringing more into the fold. That was a really hard one.
It's hard, and you know what? Everyone, like, I feel like the community that's being built right now, everyone is kind of contributing in their own way. And I like your sort of forward thinking in regards to the question, because you're looking at what Jimmy and Mike are doing now and seeing what the effect that's going to have in the future. And so I think that's an excellent answer.
Thank you.
And I just need to, I'm stealing a phrase from you. And I just need to know how to say it right. So you said earlier, a whole kettle of fish.
Yes.
So let me try it. You tell me if I'm using it right. Okay. All right. So if I was to be like talking about like, lost ancient history, and then all of a sudden I was reminded of something UFOs, I would go, but that's another whole kettle of fish.
Yeah.
Okay. Totally stealing that. All right. Got it.
I have no idea where it came from. I think my dad said it once and it just stuck.
I wrote it down immediately. I was like, I like that. For some reason it stuck with me.
I like that. Heck yeah. I'm here for it. I appreciate it.
This has been a lot of fun.
So much fun.
Yeah, this has been a blast. Thanks so much for coming on today, Kay. It's great to meet you, talk with you. We're looking forward to the next episode with Mike and all your future work.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike. It was so lovely to meet you too. And yeah, this was, like I said, I really feel like we're just at the beginning of all of this. So I feel super grateful to be included and welcomed, and just thank you so much. Like you guys are really changing the game here, and part of that like positive movement forward in this community. And you're already doing it. Seriously, you're already doing it. And I think the success that you guys have seen so far proves that you're on the right track. So I'm so excited to see what happens next. I'm like, I love that. I'm here for it. Thank you guys so much for letting me be a little part of it. I really appreciated you guys listening to my waffles today. It's been fun.
It has been fun, and you know, hopefully we will see you in Sedona or Austin for one of the next 2 events. Huh?
Definitely Austin. We're still TBD on Sedona because it depends on everything that so much baby stuff. But definitely Austin. I'm trying to actually get my folks to come out for that. Like John, the baby, and I will be there. That's going to be a really fun one, I think.
What if Graham Hancock's at that one? Then you need a picture of Graham and your dad together.
Oh, that would be so good. Because they look so similar, and they can yeah, anyway, they have a lot more in common than I think either of them realize. So it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be so good.
Kay Smythe Hill, thanks for joining the multiverse.
Thank you for welcoming me.
Subscribe to Mike and Dave's Multiverse on YouTube, Spotify, and Rumble today.